Your Excellency, are you okay? Dad, I was worried sick about you. Ah, His Excellency is truly awakened. The news of Robin waking from his deep sleep took everyone on top of the hill by storm. In the blink of an eye, the imperial tent was filled with sages using the major life law and specialized doctors, and even top generals like Elizabeth and Zara were among them, as whoever could not enter the tent because of his low status, or because he saw that it would not benefit His Excellency anything if he entered now and would only contribute to the overcrowding of the tent, would remain standing outside waiting to see His Excellency when he come out, or at least until he heard some good news from those who entered. General Alexander was one of those. Robin's reaction to the entry of this number of people into his tent was a bit too nice. He just smiled and nodded, left whoever wanted to examine his body with his soul sense or perform a bodily check to do it at his convenience, and contented himself with embracing Zara and patting her on the back of her head to reassure her. But that is all. He didn't even say a word from start to finish. When Elizabeth noticed this, her brows furrowed and then she clapped in a hurry. All right, everyone, you have seen His Excellency and made sure he is okay. He must be exhausted now. Let us go out now and let him rest. Everyone inside the tent appeared dejected and disappointed upon hearing this. But they did not waste any more time. They all began to bow one after the other and exit the tent quietly. Elizabeth, you may wait. For the first time since the crowd arrived, Robin called out as Elizabeth was about to leave. Yes. Elizabeth took one step before leaving the tent and looked back at Robin with more uneasiness. Robin's voice was simply too weak. Shall I go out, Dad? Zara raised her head from his lap and asked. But then Robin smiled and just shook his head gently, telling her to stay without saying another unnecessary word. May I ask about what happened that day? And how are you now? We know that woke up a few days ago before returning to sleep again. Does waking up now mean you are completely healed? Or? Elizabeth remained silent for a few seconds, after which she could not hold herself any longer and asked. Robin's gentle facial expressions, his half-open eyes, and even his slow movements in patting Zara's back and her hair were all not normal things. That's not Robin's nature. Something has to be up with him. Even Zara noticed this and took her presence in Robin's lap as an excuse to examine his condition as accurately as possible. But she did not find anything abnormal. Robin raised his head and looked at Elizabeth with that gentle smile, and spoke with apparent difficulty. Maybe I should start from the beginning so as not to jump around the same topic, but first excuse my speaking speed while I do so. I will try my best. That day I was trying to search the soul of that humanoid creature to find out what was going on around us through its memories. But after going a little deeper into its soul, I found a very strong resistance. Resistance of a level that even a half-step Emperor-level person like you shouldn't have. Never mind the level 14 humanoid that I was trying to search. After pausing for a second, he continued. After that, I felt that my surroundings suddenly changed and my soul moved to a very wide place. And I found myself standing in front of a huge formless and bright mass, and I felt hostile from it. I quickly discovered that it was a soul, the strongest soul I had ever seen before. So I tried to pull my soul quickly back to my body so as not to directly collide with it. But the problem is that I was no longer wandering in the soul of that white humanoid as intended rather. As I said, my soul was transferred to another zone, and I did not know a way back to my body. And what happened after that? Elizabeth asked again when she saw Robin pause for a few seconds. While trying to find a way to escape, that powerful soul turned to attack. Hundreds of tree branch-like whips attacked my soul, and soon they wrapped themselves around my soul, capturing it with ease and preventing any attempt to withdraw my soul to my body even if I found a way back. After fixing my soul in place without any means to move, that large soul mass slowly advanced toward me, and I saw in the formless mass a mouth-like gap began to open in my direction. To tell the truth, I felt a fierce killing intent from that thing that almost broke me. That huge soul's intent was clear. It wanted to devour my soul right then and there. Ah! Zara retreated from her father's lap and placed her hand over her wide-open mouth. Devouring a soul? Just the term alone was enough to send strong chills all over her body. Robin paused for a few more seconds and then continued. I didn't know what to do in front of that open mouth. It is not like I was an ant-like existence in front of it or something like that. In fact, the gap between my soul strength and his was not that huge. It is just that my soul was a raw mass of energy, and I didn't know how to manipulate it to send attacks or to defend against it. I was like a whale trapped on land while facing a land beast, not knowing what to do. In summary, I didn't have any way to retreat, neither did I have any means to fight back. So when I found the situation hopeless, I decided to blow up my soul and die along with that abnormal soul. Blow up your soul. You are now? Elizabeth's body trembled when she heard this, and she took a few steps toward Robin in apparent concern. What does soul detonation mean? A person is nothing but a body and a soul. If the body dies, the soul will turn into a ghost that roams around for a while before it dissipates. And in the worst case, the soul may fade away immediately after the death of the body. And if the soul is damaged, the body will turn into what looks like vegetables, just a living thing without an identity or a thought of its own. And in the worst cases, the vital processes will stop and the body will start to rot. This is not something that needs calculations or research from Robin to know its consequences, but rather general knowledge that everyone has known since time immemorial. If Robin had blown his soul out at that moment, then the one sitting in front of her right now would be. Robin smiled for a moment as he saw the concern in Elizabeth and Zara's eyes, before continuing in his low voice again. I know how it appears. If detonating a soul can be compared to detonating a body, then I should be dead now, right? But after all, a soul is not a material body. Then he added, I, Robin Burton, don't think that good luck was on my side once in my lifetime. I had to struggle for everything I have, and I think I lost far more than I gained. But I did taste good luck once. That was before I was born. I was born with a strong soul, which was one of the reasons for my achievements today. And my originally strong soul didn't stop at what it was. I took good care of it and would use the soul-strengthening technique on it in my spare time every day. Although my soul could still be considered a raw, formless mass of energy that I can't manipulate at will. All I can do with it is the things I made techniques for, like soul-searching a target or soul-sensing the surroundings with the raw soul power. But the thing is, even if I can't use my soul properly, it is still not that much weaker than the hostile soul that attacked me. After all, the strength of my soul has also taken a step behind the limits of the realm of saghood. So when I started to self-detonate, a huge energy released from my soul destroyed all those branches that were surrounding me and caused huge damage to that hostile soul. When the owner of that hostile soul realized what I was thinking and saw that the explosion was enough to destroy it alongside me, it opened a gap in that isolated place that I was imprisoned in, and it kicked me out, and then it personally pushed me to my body to die alone. When I felt myself returning to my body, I tried hard to nullify the explosion, but I couldn't stop it completely. It had already started, so I caught that hostile soul inside my body before it escaped completely. Because it had entered my body this time, I had some control over what was going on. Then I separated a large part of my soul that was already exploding, and I directed toward that hostile soul and encapsulated it inside. And at that moment, the explosion happened. All of this happened at that moment? Elizabeth couldn't help but say those words. That day when Robin screamed for the first time, and even his body flew backward like a kite in a tornado. It only took a second or so. Dad, how are you now? You are saying that soul detonation happened inside your body? Is that good or bad? What are your losses from this incident exactly? Zara quickly asked. Robin sighed and paused for a few seconds, then continued. 60% of my soul was destroyed in that explosion, only the rest of the 40% of my soul, and with them all my memories and consciousness survived. I originally intended to die alongside that thing. For me to stay alive after that incident in the best outcome I can hope for. I'm completely satisfied. 40% of your soul has been spared? That's great. Father, your soul power is immense. The 40% is still considered more powerful than a low-level, or even a mid-level sage. Zara clapped quickly and happily. Well, the situation is not as bad as she expected. But Elizabeth's brows did not rest, and she asked, that 40%, can they still be considered an intact soul now? Robin chuckled softly when he heard this. Good note, Ellie. I was about to. Robin was about to finish his sentence, but his laughter was suddenly cut short and he grabbed his head with both hands for a few seconds. "Dad!" Zara exclaimed with apparent concern.
TSK, I'm fine.
Robin put his hands down from his head and patted Zara's head, then looked at Elizabeth with half-open eyes and spoke. How do I explain? I guess you can imagine the state of my soul now as a shirt. It is full of patches, holes, and cuts. Although that shirt still covers from the neck to the waist as it was before, it has become torn and has lost 60% of its materials. Do I understand from this that your original soul size is still the same but full of injuries? Elizabeth quickly asked. Robin nodded twice without adding a word. Talking to smart people is always comfortable. What does this mean for you, Dad? Zara asked again. I mean, I'm going to live, I guess. Robin smiled and continued slowly. But I'm having a really bad headache right now, and even thinking about what to say hurts. I tried the soul replenishing technique to see if it would be of any use. The technique had already filled a few small voids in my soul and provided me with enough power to rise again. But that was the best it can do. Theoretically, the soul replenishing technique could fill in all the voids in my soul. After all, my soul still maintained its original size. It is just torn from the inside and can be replenished. But unfortunately, it's too slow. If I rely on it, I'll have to hibernate for dozens of years until I'm fully healed. It might even be hundreds of years, which I can't allow. Dad! Zara's eyes filled with tears. Through her adoptive father's explanation, she can feel how bad his condition is. Losing more than half of the soul is not an ordinary matter. If this happened to the body and it lost 60% of its size, what would be left of it? Hey! Lee! Why are you worrying about me? You should have seen the damage of that hostile soul. Your dad isn't the loser here. Robin laughed with much hardship. It was clear he was trying to comfort her. Elizabeth gave a forced smile to match Robin in comforting Zara. Right? After your excellency passed out, those white creatures immediately dispersed and the attack ended. Robin furrowed his brows slightly when he heard this. Oh, the owner of that soul was controlling all those creatures? This is unexpected. I thought he had sent his soul especially to prevent me from reading those creatures' memories and to take advantage of the opportunity and kill me. But it seems I am the one who entered his field without knowledge. He then returned to smile slightly and shrugged his shoulders. Well, I don't think that was all bad. Although it wasn't my main plan, destroying that mighty creature's soul was not a bad outcome either. It will give you an easier time on this planet. Do you know how much damage you dealt to the owner of that hostile soul? Is he in the same condition as you are now? Elizabeth asked. But she did not expect a good answer. Because as Robin now spoke with a difficulty right now, that creature was still controlling hundreds of blank-eyed generals. So, who is the losing side in this confirmation? Is he in the same condition as me? Robin moved his hands to massage his forehead for a moment and then spoke. To answer your question, I first have to introduce you to what a soul is and how it is used. The soul of living beings appears at birth in its primal state. And without energy training or soul training, that soul remains unchanged until it leaves the body in the end, until death. But with continuous cultivating and upbringing, that primal soul begins to grow little by little until it becomes many times its original size. But the new size of the soul is pure soul energy that surrounds the original soul. Focus with me, please. The new pure soul energy surrounds it only. Therefore, the primal soul which makes a person alive is unchanged, but cloaked with coats of soul energy. I guess it can be seen as a further extension of it. Robin paused for a second, then continued. When I send my soul out of my body, whether for soul research, sensing my surroundings, or any other purpose, I don't send out my primal soul, but only the newly acquired soul energy. The primal soul must remain inside the body continuously, and that is beyond the control of the owner. The primal soul acts as an anchor that connects the power of the soul to the body, and the primal soul can never be removed from the body, as far as I know at least. The primal soul that always remains in the body carries all the memories, feelings, and consciousness that make a person a person. That is why my body involuntarily managed to shout during my soul battle even though most of my soul energy was outside my body at that time. He then took a deep breath as if he was trying to explain as simply as he could, then continued, "As for the largest part of the soul, we can call it the extension of the soul for now, which can go out to perform various operations. It is pure formless energy accumulated by training. And even if I lose all of it, I will be severely injured and I may turn into a vegetable, but I will most likely still be alive. That is because my primal soul is still intact. I wonder if that makes sense? Now let's move on to the important thing. The owner of that hostile soul had imprisoned my soul extension in a very wide place that I had never seen before. I think it was most likely the mind of that creature. I was trying to inject my soul extension into the mind of that white humanoid. But instead, I found myself in the mind of the owner of that giant soul in a way. And when I started trying to blow myself up, that hostile soul opened a direct communication channel with my mind in order to push the extension of my soul into my body again. That creature wanted to distance itself from the danger of death due to the explosion of my soul extension inside his mind directly. And during that process, about 90% of that creature's soul mass was inside my mind for a moment. And this 90% of his soul extension was completely destroyed in the explosion inside my mind. Summary, he wanted to trap my soul extension to devour it. On the other hand, I trapped his soul extension and blew it out. Elizabeth opened her eyes in shock. You dealt damage equal to 60% of your soul while he was dealt roughly 90% damage? So in this exchange, you came out the winner. Then why did you barely wake up today when he still controls over 500 of those humanoid creatures without a problem? Firstly, because his soul is stronger than mine, not by much, but it is undoubtedly stronger. Secondly, his demeanor confirms the damages he has received. Robin chuckled happily, but in a low voice, then continued. It's like this, Elizabeth. Let's say your arm has been stabbed several times, so you still have your whole arm, but every time you use it, you will feel pain. And the more you put pressure on it, the more pain will increase until your arm is completely turned into tatters and fell off your shoulder. But if your arm was cut off directly from the elbow, at least you will be able to use your upper arm with full force. This is exactly what happened between us. My soul is complete but full of injuries. Especially my primal soul took quite a hit because the explosion happened inside my mind. While the owner of the hostile soul took a devastating blow, what remains of it is whole and cohesive. Which of you is better off then? Zara looked between Robin and Elizabeth for a moment and then asked in stupefaction. The one who escaped with less damage seems to be unable to fully open his eyes. But the one whose soul was almost fully destroyed is now holding on and can fight. Ha ha. Ha. I think both of them have their losses. In the short run, at least, he has the advantage because he has a lot of experience using his soul, but in the long run, we'll see. Robin laughed in a low voice and stroked Zara's head. Elizabeth shook her head and sighed. Long run? You mean to wait hundreds of years for your soul to heal? I think we should be grateful that you escaped with your life, Your Excellency. But the battles against the white humanoids are still going on and that leader of theirs is still running them. While we lost our main pillar, I'm afraid our losses this time are simply too high, but please don't worry, Your Excellency, we will get you your revenge. The owner of that soul might have lost control of millions of white humanoids, but his leadership of those 500 was enough to gather the army again. Even if their danger was several times less, they were still a formidable army. On the other hand, Robin can barely support his head after every long sentence, and his broken eyes say a lot about the headache he feels. How can his current person analyze the situation and give orders? Rather, it can be said that Robin is already out of the game for a very long time. From this, it is possible to see who is the winner and who is the loser from that confrontation. No need to worry. As long as I operate the soul replenishing technique continuously, I will have enough clarity of mind to analyze the situation and make a few decisions, or even take the soul replenishing technique as a basis and make a dedicated soul healing technique. All I need is some time. Robin had been smiling lightly up until that point, but at this point, his grin grew from ear to ear until his fangs were visible, and he said confidently, Secondly, who said I didn't gain anything from that confrontation? In fact, my gains this time might make this entire expedition worth it. Elizabeth and Zara had already begun to smile with joy upon hearing the first part of Robin's words, but the second part made them look at each other with furrowed eyebrows for a moment. Then Zara asked with apparent curiosity, "What do you mean? Hey, if you are hiding something you better tell us." "Hey." I said everything that needed to be said. Think for yourselves what the benefit might be. As for me, I will announce it later if it works out. It would be too embarrassing if I announced it now and then failed. Won't it? Robin laughed and waved his hand slowly. Then with a light movement he got off his bed. He stood up easily, then continued while moving towards the door of the tent. "I heard by chance that Jabba took most of the army with him and left 3 days ago? He must have sent you a few reports. Tell me all about this." "At your command. But where are you going?" Elizabeth quickly moved behind Robin and asked in amazement. Robin moved his hand, sliding the curtain door of the tent, and spoke with a smile. "I still have unfinished business with those prisoners." "Your Excellency. Your Excellency. You really did wake up. Haha. Thank the heavens. This is great." The moment Robin stepped out of the tent, he found hundreds of people surrounding him, some of them laughing with apparent joy and some girls even crying, and it seemed that their numbers were still increasing. Another minute would not pass before everyone on the hill reached this spot. Going to another planet without knowing if they will survive tomorrow was worrying enough, and after the terrible fall of Robin that day, in which everyone thought he was seriously injured or even dead, many of them lost faith in surviving the next day. But today, without warning, Emperor Robin Burton has finally come back from the dead. "Okay. It's all right now. I will not die that easy. You can go back to what you were doing." Robin raised both his hands and waved to everyone with a big smile and energetic eyes. All the fatigue and headache that was evident on him inside the tent seemed to vanish without a trace. Seeing him in this form made Elizabeth and Zara's exchange look with worried eyes involuntarily. It was clear that he was prejudiced against himself to appear strong in front of the soldiers. Thud. A strong thud sound suddenly caught everyone's attention, and even Robin couldn't restrain himself from looking at the source. When he saw the source, his wide smile turned into furrowed eyebrows and he quickly spoke. "Hey, what are you doing?" He had seen what the entire planet Jura thought would never happen. The last emperor of the Wind Empire, Alexander Levon, was kneeling on the ground. Alexander, who was still wrapped from the top of his head to the toenails in bandages, seemed as if he had not heard Robin, and he did not hear all the shocked cries of the thousands of soldiers around him. He still completed his kneeling by placing both his hands on the ground, and he spoke in a voice that sounded like it was coming from a burning throat. I want to. General Alexander, what are you doing? You are opening your internal wounds again." Zara advanced quickly and started injecting life energy into the bottom of Alexander's head, and then looked at her father. "Father, give him the order to stand up and stop talking. What he is doing now will increase the damage accumulated on his body. That lightning bolt did not leave a single cell in his body without harming it. Even with me personally using the life energy on him continuously, he still needs at least another 2 months for him to fully recover." Robin listened to Zara until she finished, but he didn't give orders to Alexander as she asked, but turned back to look at the bandaged man in front of him and spoke in a low voice. "When a man wants to do something, he must do it. If he has the will to kneel in his condition, how can I insult him by underestimating what he's doing? Let him do whatever he wants. Just focus on healing him for now, please." "Dad, you? Psi-men are weird creatures." Zara didn't know what to say, so she did as Robin requested and focused on injecting life energy into Alexander's throat. Just like Robin, thousands of soldiers, rune masters, and divine blacksmiths stood watching Alexander with eyes wide open, trying, like Robin, to anticipate what Alexander wanted to say in this situation. Alexander was one of the 6,000 saints who received a direct hit from the lightning. 1,000 of them were killed directly while the rest were charred with massive injuries. Even Alexander, who was considered the strongest of them, could barely speak. And all of this happened as a result of direct orders from Robin. He was the one who harmed them. So logically, Alexander is now about to thank you. Alexander raised his head and looked at Robin with one eye that white turned into blood red, then said what no one expected. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly. He too was expecting a harsh criticism or blame. But before he could say anything, Alexander continued with a heart-rending voice, but he was better off after Zara started injecting life energy into his neck. Since we came to the planet, you refused to fly the army. Even though I tried to pressure you so much to do it, if you had listened to my words at that time, we would all have died without exception. Your Excellency's limitless wisdom has saved us all. It has saved me from my arrogant self. I, Alexander Levon, confess my rudeness and foolishness when I questioned your Excellency's wisdom, and ask for punishment. Hustle. Every two next to each other started whispering in awe and excitement. What they are witnessing now is history. Who is Alexander? A genius who has ruled an empire for hundreds of years. How often can one see such a person submit to another person of his own free will? It was worth mentioning that even when the details of the Great Green Hill Declaration were leaked, everyone knew that Alexander didn't kneel, nor did he submit entirely as he did now. He only did what he had to do for his people to survive. But this, Reuben only sighed when he heard this. Actually, Alexander's request at that time was very reasonable, and the wisdom that prevented him from agreeing to Alexander's request was none other than the skill that he had acquired from learning the Truthmaster Law. It was something that he didn't know how to use it. He didn't even know why he didn't want to fly. Putting someone like Alexander into full submission through a trick like this seemed like cheating. But since it wasn't a bad thing for anyone, Robin swallowed what he wanted to say, moved forward a few steps, and gently patted Alexander on the shoulder. Don't blame yourself. Just learn from your experiences and move on. Go back to take care of your wounds. Then he continued his way forward again in a Solomon way. Dad, Zara muttered in a low voice, biting her lips, then walked 2 steps behind her father. Only after Robin moved a few hundred steps away from that large crowd, and after Elizabeth ordered them to return to their duties and not to disturb His Excellency, Robin's features turned from smiling and comforting to someone with severe headaches again. Then he raised his left hand and began massaging his forehead. Acting in front of all of them that he was completely fine was not easy. During that short period that he stood in front of Alexander, he activated many minor heavenly laws besides the major heavenly law of life in order to be able to put on that mask. Although this increased the pressure on him more and increased his headache more and more, however, the army's morale cannot be allowed to fall because of him. Oh, I'm fine. Robin slowly shook his head and started to advance again in a certain direction, then suddenly asked, How are Jabba and the rest? Why did they leave and what exactly is going on there? Elizabeth took 2 more steps forward to be closer to Robin, then began to reply. Second Commander-in-Chief Jabba decided to take the army and head in a northwest direction because he realized that the enemy forces were withdrawing to that side in secret. Then, Elizabeth continued without stop until you get to the part where Jabba decides to enter the battle between some local humans and white humanoids. There are people here who are identical to the people of planet Jura. That really explains a lot and fills in a lot of blanks. Robin nodded with a slight smile. Jabba's decision was flawless. If we had a local ally on this planet, everything would be easier. Then what happened? According to reports, the battle between the local humans and the white humanoids was already in a state of equilibrium at the time, with no indications that it would lean toward one of them anytime soon. But after our forces intervened in favor of the local human army, everything collapsed. Even though there were around 20,000 white humanoid saints and sages chasing after our men, and they too joined the battle, they were unable to equalize the great danger shown by the men of the Golden Battalion, and within only 3 hours, that battle was resolved in favor of the humans. Then she continued with some concern on her face. The problem is that after the defeated white human forces retreated, the generals of the human army came to greet Jabba and the rest cheered. But the big problem that arose was the language barrier. Jabba and the rest initially thought it would be an ordinary problem that they just have to show that they don't know the language of those locals, then they can communicate by sign, or ask someone to teach them the language. But the problem was bigger than they thought. Those humans looked very apprehensive when they learned that our men couldn't speak their language and they left a distance between them. And in the blink of an eye all attempts to communicate were cut off. Robin's steps stopped and his eyebrows furrowed slightly. Their behavior has one explanation, which is that there is some unified language for the planet, and that it is not normal for them to find someone who does not know it. They must have started to doubt the origin of the members of the Golden Battalion at that point. That's why they put their distance. I'm afraid Jabba's plan to try to blend in with the locals hit a metal wall before it even started. It's true, Jabba also came to this conclusion in his report. The situation really didn't go as he wanted, but it's not too bad either. Elizabeth nodded and then continued. After that battle, that local human army disintegrated into several small armies, and they began to infiltrate in all directions. Jabba said in his report that they are trying to kill all the white humanoids in that area and control the largest plots of land possible. And they have also begun to build some simple defensive fortifications. Robin looked at Elizabeth with surprise. And what is not bad about that? If those humans are our allies, then we can congratulate them. But as long as they start to suspect us and isolate our army, they are potential enemies, and they could be worse of an enemy than those white humanoids too. Elizabeth shook her head lightly. It is not like that. Even though they are suspicious of us, they show clear respect for us and consider us at least as the enemy of their enemy. For example, during the 3 days that followed that battle, the white humanoids organized 5 more armies to attack the local humans. The scale of those battles wasn't remotely big as the first one, but they still weren't something the local humans can handle with ease after they split up, so they were asking for help every time from Jabba, and they fought side by side more than once. The second proof of their respect is that they sent parts of their armies to control the lands on their right and left and behind them, but they did not advance towards us until this moment. They came to a full stop at the point where they met Jabba. Robin looked in front of him again for a few seconds, before moving again towards the captive's tent, which was now close by, and asked, "How far is it between us and Jabba right now?" "A little more than 1,000 kilometers, Elizabeth responded quickly. Robin nodded. "Good. When Jabba sends the next report, tell him to pull back exactly 500 kilometers and start making some fortifications at that point." "Is this really necessary? Wouldn't this show weakness on our part?" Elizabeth did not understand. "Their behavior says that they moved to take advantage of the chaos we created and control more lands, but we are currently standing in their way, preventing them from doing so. They may respect the fact that we have helped them achieve those results now, but if we continue to stand in their way, sooner or later a conflict will happen. I didn't come to this planet for a piece of land. I've had enough of this in planet Jura. Earning an entire race's enmity over a piece of land is quite irrational, so it would be better if we withdrew 500 kilometers on our own and showed goodwill, and at the same time start making fortifications at that point to tell them they can't approach more. It's a simple message, and I know they will understand it." Robin analyzed and then removed the curtain from the prisoner's tent and entered the tent. Then he waved to the guards inside to withdraw. Only after they left did Robin continue. "Tell Jabba that until I go to him myself, even if he cannot win their trust, our relationship with these local humans must remain neutral." "You will go to the front yourself?" "When?" Zara asked excitedly and worried at the same time. Robin took a few more steps and sat down in front of one of the captured white humanoid creatures. Like last time, that creature was tied hand and foot from behind, but this time the creature was not trying to bite Robin's head off. Rather, it was looking at him with its green eyes with great fear. Robin slowly extended both hands and placed them on either side of that humanoid creature's head, and started the soul search process again. We suffer from an acute lack of information, like a blind person feeling the road. All we know now is the result of accumulated experience by falling into a hole after a hole. We cannot go on like this. Tell Jabba that I will go to him when I know what I want to know. Are you? Is that soul search? Again? Dad, what are you doing? You can barely speak but want to perform a soul technique of this level? Please stop. Zara took a few steps and spoke anxiously. It's okay. There is no rush this time. Robin gave a cruel smile and started his work. Starting from that day and for weeks, the tragic cries did not stop for a moment from that tent. 3 months after the start of the Planet Greenland invasion plan. The sun shone, announcing the start of another usual day over the steep hill, with the usual cold wind, usual birds chirping, and a usual infernal scream coming from the prisoner's tent. The sounds of heartbreaking screams were a heavy burden for everyone when Robin first started his interrogation. but it became the norm after several days had passed. It's still bothersome, but you can force yourself to think of something else. You can ignore it as if it isn't there, like the sound of a field cricket, for example. These were not the cries of 1, 2, or even 100 prisoners, but rather countless white humanoid creatures who entered that tent as prisoners of war after Elizabeth ordered for them to be hunted down. But they did not leave that tent as respected prisoners of war, but rather as body parts carried in garbage bags. No one knew what was happening in that tent, and no one cared either, as long as what was happening would benefit their cause. This is how war is. Ha ha ha. The only unusual thing that happened today is that Robin himself rushed through the tent's canvas door for the first time since he entered it, and he gasped loudly. Swoosh. Your Excellency. It is not normal for you to go out by yourself. Do you want anything? Shall I bring you another batch of prisoners? Elizabeth came quickly when she heard the news of Robin's exit from the prisoner's tent and asked. No, there is no need to capture more of them. Robin let out a long snort and then crossed his arms as if trying to move his stiff body, then continued with a big bright smile on his face. How is Zara? I want to see her. Why didn't she come with you? Elizabeth smiled and replied excitedly. Her Highness is passing by the victims of the lightning strike. There are still injuries embedded within their bones from that brutal attack, but the good news is that most of their wounds have already healed, and they are once again in a position where they are allowed to fight and even display more than 80% of their original strength. Her Highness says that the life energy will be enough to treat the rest of the injuries as well, but in the long term. Ha! Her Highness Zara? She must love that title. Robin laughed out loud. What else is there about the hill? Is everything okay? Of course, since Jabba advanced with most of the army that day, no one bothers us here anymore, so we took advantage of this opportunity to extend the energy dome array to cover the entire hill, and then the rune masters turned to help the divine weapon makers make the space portal. It's almost 95% complete. It will be ready to connect to one of the portals of planet Jura during this week. Oh, very well. After the space portal is set up, we'll have a back door to leave in case things go wrong again. This will give us more choices while we are here. Robin nodded with apparent happiness as he watched the huge arch being constructed in the middle of the hilltop. Your Excellency, are you? Elizabeth hesitated a bit and then asked, Are you done with what you were doing inside the tent? She believed, like everyone else, that Robin's seclusion in the prisoner's tent would end within a day or two after he finished interrogating the 16 prisoners inside the tent. But he left after more than 2 months. She tried more than once to enter with the batches of new prisoners to tell him that the situation with Jabba was not good and that he should go out to give orders, but he continued to answer in the same way. Send me more prisoners and tell Jabba to do what he sees fit. But seeing him finally out and even asking about the situation, I am. Robin nodded with a smile. It took longer than I expected due to my soul injury, but I guess I have a pretty good idea of what is happening on this planet now. Excellent. Elizabeth rejoiced when she heard this and shouted loudly, but her features quickly sank again as she spoke seriously. Jabba and the rest were about to make a big move. You should hold the reins again before they start. Big move. Robin's big smile waned and he asked, What is going on over there? It's going to be a long explanation here. You'd better go and see for yourself. Elizabeth shook her head. They are stationed near here. If you move now, you will reach them in a few minutes. A few minutes. Understood. Robin furrowed his brows tightly upon hearing this. Before entering this tent, Robin gave orders for Jabba to withdraw for a distance of 500 kilometers from the hill. This distance he would need a few hours to cover if he went running on his feet at his full speed, especially in such a thick forest. How is it possible that he would go in a few minutes? This means one thing: they have retreated so much that they are close to the hill. A few minutes. What Elizabeth said sounded like a little sentence, but it said a lot. 25 minutes later, 75 kilometers down the hill, inside a large golden tent. The atmosphere inside the tent was highly charged. If an insect entered by chance, it would most likely be stunned and die immediately from the vibrations of the compressed energy in the place. Jabba, Caesar, and Victoria, Old Gu, and dozens of old experienced sages and those at the peak sage level. All of them were looking towards a large map in the middle of the tent with sunken brows and sweat rolling down their forehead. It seemed as if each and every one of them was about to make a life-or-death decision. "What do we do now?" One of the elder sages spoke in a heavy voice. "And what should we do? Let's continue what we started and draw back again." Caesar struck him hard on the thigh and yelled, "We can't go back any further. If we go back any further, we'll come back up the hill. We can't endanger His Excellency again. Why do we have to go back? Dealing with those rabbles with goodwill doesn't do us any good. Let us kill them all." Victoria spoke with a strong killing intent. Old Gu shook his head. "Do I need to remind you that those things managed to surround us and would have nearly destroyed us had it not been for His Excellency's wise leadership? And the local humans have forces equal to the humanoid creatures. Would killing them all really be that simple?" "Humph. No one is listening to me. Keep listening to Jabba then, and let's see where he's going to withdraw us to this time." When Victoria said those words, everyone turned to look at the blue giant who would not stop massaging his forehead. The decision he will take now will be fatal for the campaign on the planet Greenland, and may even be the difference between life and death for all members of the expedition. "Second Commander, I have important news." "What is it? Did the local humans start attacking?" Jabba quickly asked when a high-level sage suddenly walked in on them. Enthusiastically, the sage continued, "No, but it's more important than that. His Excellency Robin was seen approaching us quickly. We salute Your Excellency. We salute Your Excellency. We salute Your Excellency. We salute Your Excellency." Jabba gave a full bow when he saw Robin landing in front of him. Then the rest of the generals and thousands of soldiers that were close to the gate bowed behind him in succession. What was new was that this time their faces not only showed the usual signs of respect and awe, but there was also pure happiness. Even Jabba himself, Caesar, and Peon, who have a high degree of confidence in Robin's abilities and keep up to date with his news by communicating with Elizabeth, seemed as if they were a step away from speeding up and hugging Robin. Caesar actually almost did it when he saw him coming, but he clenched his hand and fixed his foot on the ground. To hug the master of Planet Jura like a child hugging his father in front of all those soldiers would diminish his and Robin's prestige in their eyes. So he kept watching Robin coming toward him with eyes filled with tears of joy in silence. As for the rest, happiness and shock almost canceled all their thoughts. After Robin fell that day and after his shout, "I will drag you with me," everyone thought that he was already dead. His waking up and taking the reins again in less than 3 months only is a miracle only His Excellency Robin can achieve. And there was another reason to be happy today. Robin did not come alone, Alexander also, and about 1,000 sages of those who got hit by the thunderbolts came with him too, and they all seem energetic. "Rest." Robin raised both hands and smiled, then looked back at Jabba. "Elizabeth told me a thing or two about what's going on here, but I still need a quick summary from you, Mr. Second Commander." "Ahem, yes. First, let me tell you on behalf of everyone that we welcome your safe return." Jabba nodded and said excitedly, then continued in a low voice, "As for the situation, perhaps we should discuss it in a quieter place." "That's reasonable." Robin nodded with a smile and focused eyes, then began to penetrate the camp with steady steps. The 1,000 or so sages were left behind to mangle with the rest of the army. As for Alexander and the rest of the generals walked half a step behind Robin in silence. Only Jabba began to give him directions to reach the command tent. "No, there is no time to enter the tents today. Let's go directly to the frontier." Yes. Jabba was amazed at Robin's request, as he wanted to discuss with him the current situation and how to get out of it with minimal damage. Such a long dialogue could take hours if not days. After 5 minutes, "Egglesnell, we salute Your Excellency. We salute His..." "Ha?" Step, step. Robin advanced between the ranks of the guards with the generals behind him as he is. Then he advanced further until he left the defensive line. Then he found a large rock and jumped on it. Then with narrow eyes, he began to observe the situation in front of him. Only 2 kilometers away, there is a huge camp that can accommodate hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and stables full of beasts that he has never seen in his life before. Some of them look like rhinos, some of them look like lions, and some of them are huge reptiles. What attracted his attention the most was a battalion of about 10,000 soldiers standing ready in front of that camp. all of them wearing shields and holding metal swords like those that were widespread on the planet Jura in the past. In fact, Robin could tell that these humans do indeed look a lot like the people of planet Jura, perhaps the only noticeable difference being that their skin tends to be darker in color. Does anyone intend to enlighten me and tell me why that battalion looks as if they are ready to engage us? And why is our army only 75 kilometers away from the hill and not 500 kilometers away as I commanded? Has a war started between us and those people already? Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly and replied. Everyone looked at Jabba at that moment, and Victoria even gestured him to speak with gloating features. Jabba sighed when he saw this and took another step forward. I alone take responsibility for the retreat. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly. What exactly happened? About 2.5 months ago, when we helped those local humans against the white humanoid creatures and exterminated huge numbers of them, things were relatively good between us and gradually improved with each wave of attacks we repelled together. But since they learned that we cannot speak to them in their language at all, and they treat us coldly, not bad, just cold. Jabba waited a moment at this point and then continued. After we defeated all the armies of white humanoid creatures at that point, and they sent small battalions to wipe them out completely even if there was one left, I started problems appear between us, as they visibly begin to gather in front of us as if they are ready for war against us. Like this here. Robin pointed towards the local humans' camp behind him. Exactly. They kept amassing for a few days. They could have attacked at any time, but they waited. They advanced very slowly as if they were urging us to leave, or else you will declare war. Jabba spoke and then pointed to the rest of the generals around him, especially Victoria. The gentleman here wanted me to give the order to hold our positions and prove the strength of our army, so that they would not think that we were weak. And I was saying that we should retreat until we find an opportunity to repair relations later. And the argument continued between us until the local human army approached us to a dangerous distance. At that moment we received Your Majesty's orders to retreat to the 500 kilometers mark. Victoria didn't seem to like it, so she humphed and spoke. Don't try to deflect the responsibility onto His Excellency. He told you to keep 500 kilometers and consider it our territory and defend it. But what did you do? They kept on advancing towards us after they killed off all the white humanoid things in their area, and you kept backing away until we got to this point. They must think we're a bunch of clowns now. I agree with Victoria this time. Our forces can stop that army or even wipe it out completely if we have to. Why did we have to retreat? The true beginning empire should not retreat in front of anyone. We came here to invade. Caesar also spoke annoyed. Robin glanced at all the generals and senior leaders around him, all of whom were clearly annoyed and angry at Jabba's decisions in the continuous retreat. Even Alexander stood with his eyebrows furrowed. When Robin saw this, he turned back to look at Jabba, smiling. It looks like it's been a difficult time for you. Jabba shook his head with a sigh. Master, you said in your orders to General Elizabeth that I should do what I see fit until you are back to us, and I did just that. I am sorry if my decisions made your army look weak, Master, but I wanted to maintain good relations with those local humans until you come back to us and decide what we should do. If you want to attack them now, then I will kill the most of them for you. If you see me wrong, then please teach me my fault. No. No, you did not make a mistake. We all know we didn't come here to make friends. But we didn't come here to invade or plunder either. I think you are the only one who gets me, Jabba. Robin spoke with a clear voice. Then he looked at the sky with a smile. Actually, you gave me a chance to try what I intend to do. You are? Jabba closed his eyes a little and was about to ask something. But at this moment Robin turned around to look towards the local human camp again and used the Major Wind Law to raise his voice, then shouted out loudly, Sushwa Kali, Bami Vit Rasul. So Shoa Kali, Bami Vet Rasul.
Bami Vet Rasul.
Rasul. Robin's voice, reinforced by the major heavenly law of the wind, resounded everywhere and entered every ear within a 10-kilometer radius. The local humans' camp immediately started to visibly shake, and everyone in the tents came out looking towards Robin's direction in shock. This language. You learned the language of the people of this planet. Even Jabba and the rest of the generals were in shock when they heard Robin's words. A shock filled with happiness. The sentence that Robin said was indeed very similar to the language that humans were trying to communicate with them in, And what is worse is that he spoke it eloquently and in the dialect of the locals. It was not just throwing a few words. "Hey, what do you all think I have been doing for the past 2 months?" Robin smiled as he continued with what was going on in the camp before him and spoke. "I have researched the souls of hundreds of white humanoid creatures. Although there are many things that remained mysterious to me, I still knew a lot about this planet. And the local language was one of my newfound knowledge. In here indeed they speak the same local language from ancient times. You searched the souls of hundreds of these beings? Tell us quickly, what are these things? Are they invaders like us? Are they local residents? What is the secret of the hostility between them and the local humans? And what is the real reason behind their attack on us that day?" Victoria took 2 steps forward and spoke hastily. Robin didn't look back before speaking softly. "Those white humanoid creatures are neither invaders nor locals. It can even be said that they are not alive in a sense." "They are not alive?" Caesar furrowed his brows. "Father, didn't you say you read their souls?" The rest of the generals also had the same look along with their heart rates rising. The creatures who had exhausted them for 3 months and killed so many of them weren't even alive. But they saw them talking among themselves, and they saw them eating and drinking and even playing. Rather, how could they not be alive and Robin could read their souls? Isn't the presence of the soul in the body a sign of life? I know it's strange. It took me the whole first month to solve the mystery of creating those creatures. They themselves don't know it, and I'm pretty sure the local humans don't know it either. Robin gently scratched his head and replied, "I think we are about to meet the local humans soon, but I'll try to sum up the origin of those white humanoids quickly. Who doesn't understand should ask someone else to explain. Okay? Yes, of course. We will not ask for an explanation more than once. Please go ahead," Old Goo quickly replied. Robin nodded a few times as if preparing the order in which he was going to speak. "These creatures are alive and not alive. They need food and drink, but they are usually lethargic and do not have a mind of their own or a soul of their own. You can say that they are somewhat like fruits and vegetables."
Fruits
"And vegetables?" A look of extreme shock appeared on Alexander's face as he added, "But how would they move if that was the case? How could they not have a soul?" And Your Excellency searched their soul. "The souls they have are not normal. They are cloned souls." Robin furrowed his eyebrows here a bit and then continued unconcerned with the reactions behind him. "After I did a few soul searches, I found out that their old memories are almost identical. In a cortical form, it all revolved around worshipping that huge tree calling itself the Tree Father and how he created them from his body. But after several attempts, I was able to penetrate deeper into their souls and saw the memories of a normal human man named Amai Soy, just a farmer with a family and children and his own problems. A man who was caught by the branches of that huge tree long ago. Clone souls, fruits, and vegetables. A huge tree. You mean all those white humanoid things carry within them a clone of that farmer's soul as their foundation?" Robin nodded. "Yeah, that man's soul was refined for a very long time and his memories were suppressed deep inside the soul essence. The soul essence that all creatures needed to move, think, and dream. It is what makes a person a person. Then that Tree Father managed to make copies of that soul essence and implanted it in the fruit that comes out from his branches, which he designed to have the same appearance as that man he captured as well to make a perfect match for the soul. During the month I was also preoccupied with dissecting the bodies of white humanoids who died from the soul search. My knowledge of anatomy is not the best, but I still know the structure of the human body. I wanted to see how successful that Tree Father was in reconstructing the human body. But what I found confirmed my previous understanding even more. They are really just plants, and all the internal organs are just an imitation parallel to the human body, an imitation that is fixed forever and is unable to gain more power, and that green blood that was splashing on us from killing them is just herbal sap. But we got to give him that. In the end, the Tree Father got what he sought, his unique army. The people of this world don't know about soul essence duplication, but they do know that these beings are just things that look like vegetables, so the locals call them the buds. Then Robin continued before another person spoke. The Tree Father did not stop at that, but rather developed his army over time, so that those buds can be born with the strength of a person in the energy foundation realm and then develop to produce buds with the strength of knighthood and then higher and higher. But the production of high-level buds requires a longer period for their preparation. If a tree can produce 20 normal buds a day, it can produce one saint bud a year. And not only that, the Tree Father then captured more local humans with knowledge of the heavenly laws and copied their memories of them and copied their martial experiences and merged them with the soul essence he created to produce high-level martial buds who have knowledge of advanced degrees of heavenly laws since the day they were first born. Oh, do you remember that the saints and sages of those beings had slightly different colors? Some of them are pink and use flame, and some are pale blue and use water. These are the actions of the Tree Father who makes a strong bud that matches the nature of those heavenly laws before to put into it the memories of using those laws, and thus have an excellent final product both in terms of body and mind. Then he continued after raising his shoulders slightly. The only drawback is that so far the Tree Father has not been able to make a bud that can be trained to increase his strength, or even that can breed among themselves. They are still just a strong and intelligent vegetable. When one of them is born with a certain level of strength, it will remain at this level until it is killed. And they are still completely dependent on the Tree Father in the matter of reproduction. Tree Father, everyone muttered in a low voice as they clenched their hands. This information is very dangerous. So far, they have killed about 4 million of these white humanoid creatures, but in the end, it turns out that they are just tree buds. They were fighting fruit the whole time? Wait a minute. We have seen with our own eyes more than 70,000 saint strength buds or more, and you said that it takes about a year to produce one saint level bud? Doesn't that mean that tree is... Jabba's eyes slowly widened as he uttered those words until those around him let go of their thoughts and started to sweat. Robin did not care much about the expected reactions behind him, as he had gone through all this during the past months. Even a person at the peak sage level could live for about 4,000 years or so. Having a living entity that was over 70,000 years old was simply something out of nightmares. The problem is, that is not even the most impressive thing about that entity. Was that Tree Father the one controlling the Bud Army? Was Tree Father the one who made the soul attack on you that day and put you into that state? Wait, is it the one who sent that lightning attack? How can a living being copy a real soul? Isn't the soul one of the secrets of the universe and something that can only be given to a living being at birth? The Tree Father is one being and all those buds are just an extension of him. This is like a one-man war, right? Why did the enmity between him and the local humans of this planet reach this stage of ferocity? Robin let out a long sigh when he heard that rain of questions. All of these questions were expected after they heard his explanation. Rather, if they sat for a while and analyzed everything Robin said, they would find more questions and mysterious gaps. Hey, don't forget that I used to look at the history of the planet from the point of view of the man named Amai Soy, and from the memories of the buds on whom I conducted the soul search, and neither this nor the other knew anything meaningful about the Tree Father other than the few things I told you. Robin shook his head. What I'm sure of is that the Tree Father was indeed the one who was in control of the Bud's army, and that he was the one whose soul attacked me, and that is because I personally tested his soul strength. Other than that, I don't know anything useful about the Tree Father himself. He then paused for a few seconds and smiled before continuing. I have a feeling we might know more about them in a little while though. Then he stopped talking completely and just watched the exit of several people from the camp of the local humans. They are all coming towards them on the backs of beasts that look like lions but are larger than horses. The momentum of their advance can make anyone feel awe, but whoever carefully investigates their faces will find a serious look and even some tension. They swallowed the bait. When Robin saw this, he smiled slightly, and then took out a palm-sized metal plate from his ring and quickly passed it to Jabba. This is a thoughts-conveying tablet that contains details of the Kovana language, the language of the people of this planet. Use the tablet and transmit the information to your head quickly. Even if you don't master the whole language quickly, at least you'll understand a few words of what's going to be said, and then pass the board to the one closest to you. Just 2 minutes later, a small procession of about 20 people arrived riding their giant lions, headed by a girl in her 20s, brown in color and had some tattoos on her face and exposed body. Her sharp and fierce features with her golden eyes gave her a special stamp of her own striking beauty. The girl jumped off her mount and took a few cautious steps until she stopped 20 meters away from Robin, then spoke in the Cavanoic language. You, say something again. What do you want me to say? Robin smiled and replied in clear Cavanoic language again. In my shout a while ago I expressed my wish to meet your chief. Are you the chief here? A smile flickered on the girl's face, but he quickly suppressed it, then asked the people behind Robin with a heart beating loudly. This sir here said he wants to meet our chief as your leader. Does he really represent you all? Jabba and a few others nodded. Then Jabba even took another step and said, Cow, meaning yes. At this point Jabba and more than 7 others had passed their souls into the tablet and had already obtained the information that lay therein, although they still needed time to digest that information and practice practically on it to be able to speak it. They will be able to understand it easily and even say a few short words if it was not too complicated. Deep inhale. The girl and all her attendants showed great smiles filling their faces and let out a big sigh. Then the girl came back and mounted her lion again before speaking. I am the Beast Corps commander and the daughter of the Northern Fury tribe leader, Ellis Rexes. With the authority entrusted to me, I allow you to follow me to meet my father. You shall be accompanied by no more than 3 other escorts. Who is going to meet who? Caesar furrowed his eyebrows tightly and muttered, then addressed Robin in the language of planet Jura. Father, you don't have to humble yourself in front of anyone. You are a world emperor and he is just a local tribal chief at best. That person should come and seek your favor. I will go bring him in front of you right now if you want. The girl named Ellis furrowed her eyebrows tightly when she heard Caesar come back to speak in his strange language again. But she didn't say anything and kept her eyes on Robin to see his reaction. He just smiled and rose from the ground as he mumbled with a smile. If we come to someone's house, it is only right to pay respect to them. Did you forget how I raised you, brat? You, Jabba, and Alexander come with me, and the rest of you, stay alert. Sin fami. Oh, chimimas. After the short meeting with the girl Ellis and her companions, Robin flew with him Caesar, Jabba, and Alexander behind them towards the local humans' camp in front of them. Flying behind a group of people riding huge lions-like beasts in the form of lions was awkward enough. But now that they have reached the borders of the camp and everyone has slowed down because of the crowds, then the army surrounded them on every side pointing and whispering. The situation became even more uncomfortable, especially Caesar, who still looks angry because those local humans were the ones who had to come and pay respect and not the other way around. No one could underestimate the strength of the local human army. With the strength of more than 50,000 saints, sages, and millions of infantrymen, with many kinds of war beasts and insects, the local human army standing before them had the strength to completely destroy the Jura world within a few hours. This is before Robin united it, of course. But now, forget about the destruction of planet Jura. Only the Golden Battalion has enough power to sweep away the local human army if they are given the green signal. They will lose a few thousand soldiers, of course, but victory is certain for them if it's a life or death battle. Then why would they have to compromise and show weakness by coming here? Caesar just couldn't understand. Jabba and Alexander flew after Robin with expressionless faces as if they were statues. But the looks of contempt never left Caesar's eyes since he saw the girl called Elise. But strangely, even him was forced to change the look in his eyes after he roamed inside the camp for a while. The looks on the local humans' faces were not as provocative as he expected. They were not saying, "We forced you to come to us, you are weak," as he expected. On the contrary, their looks were once again full of curiosity. From looks of curiosity and joy at the first meeting, to looks of anger and disappointment to fight after they discovered that they could not communicate in the same language. And now the situation has returned to looks of curiosity again. What's wrong with those locals exactly? A question exploded in Caesar's head as he watched the locals around him. But he didn't have enough time to figure it out. At the next moment, the procession stopped in front of a huge black tent, and everyone descended from the backs of the lions, forming 2 longitudinal rows on both sides of the tent door. Robin landed between the rows of soldiers, followed by Alexander, Jabba, and then Caesar, and the 4 of them began to advance on their feet towards the door of the tent until they passed by Ellis and finally entered it. The smell of thick incense attacked their noses as soon as they entered the tent. A strong, fragrant smell that overshadowed the smells of blood and the dung of monsters spread outside. making those who entered the tent feel separated from the world outside. "Welcome to my humble tent, strangers." A strong and quiet voice in the language of the people of Greenland came from behind the burning pile of firewood in the middle of the tent, drawing everyone's attention towards a dark-skinned person who appears to be in his 50s, scars filling half of his face as if he came out of a fight to the death with a handful of lions, and a snow-white beard adorns the lower half of his face. Caesar and the rest furrowed their brows when they saw him. His menacing aura and his word strangers were enough to make them feel threatened, even though he was sitting quietly with his eyes closed. All of them involuntarily raised their level of awareness as they thought the same thing. "Strong. Ha. There are no strangers here, sir. Just lost relatives." Robin laughed and replied loudly, then took a few steps and sat with strange relief in front of the dark-skinned old man as if he were his old friend, then added, "We have a common history and a common enemy, brother. We shouldn't be careful of each other while we are one family. By the way, what is your name?" "Humph, kin and a common history? It's strange. Why don't our relatives speak our language? And why don't those who share our common history know our origin and purpose?" A small smile appeared on the dark-skinned old man's face. Even his daughter Ellis stood beside him looking at Robin and the rest with complicated looks. "Sigh, after the War of Annihilation took place against the Tree Fathers, our species scattered around the world against our will, and before parting, we pledged to build our strength and meet again one day. Is this how you receive your cousins, brother? I am disappointed, very disappointed." Robin sighed and shook his head in obvious sadness. Even Caesar and the rest behind him furrowed their eyebrows for a moment, involuntarily, when they heard what he said, but they returned to their natural features in the blink of an eye. Kinship, annihilation, war, and separation? What is this? He didn't mention any of this in his previous summary. The dark-skinned old man opened his eyes a little and started examining Robin, then turned around to observe the reactions of Caesar and the rest for a few seconds before he spoke. "It seems that even your followers do not know what you are talking about, brother. You are right, and unfortunately it is indeed shameful to say the rest, but it's normal. It's the first time they have heard of something like this." Robin raised both hands helplessly. "You know how difficult it is to run a large tribe, brother. Everyone has their own way of controlling their followers, but the ancestors of our tribe decided not to pass on the tales of the horrors that happen to our race to the new generation until they grow up properly and not blind them with anger and hate. So the history was falsified and even the language was changed and everything referring to the painful past was erased. Only the chief of the tribe of each generation has knowledge of these things. Our history and our language were erased? This is preposterous." The brown old man slapped his hand on his thigh hard and shouted angrily, finally opening his eyes to the last of them. "I agree with you completely. How can we live without our brothers? Our ancestors? As the saying goes, he who has no past has no future. So when I took over the leadership of the tribe, I decided to reconnect with our lost relatives from the time of the ancient war. So I brought the strongest warriors of the tribe and destroyed our way here hoping to meet other humans. And finally, we met you." Robin opened his hands wide and spoke excitedly, then stroked her and continued in a low voice, "Brother, you do not intend to punish us for the decisions made by our ancestors, right?" The old brown man kept his eyes on Robin for about a full minute, then slowly closed them again and replied, "Fugon Rexes, that's my name. Fugon Rexes. What a powerful name. It is my pleasure to meet you." Robin nodded with a satisfied smile and continued, "I'm Robin Burton, and these are Caesar Burton, Alexander Levon, and Jabba." Fogan looked at Robin for a moment and then passed his eyes to the three people sitting behind him, who in turn nodded at him when their respective names were mentioned. Then Fugon looked back at Robin and spoke. "Your friends here seem to understand what we say, especially that handsome giant over there. Why didn't they try to contact us earlier? This would have saved a lot of unnecessary pressure for both of us. But they kept on signaling and talking with that foreign language between themselves. This unfortunately can't be helped. As I told you, Brother Fugon, the chief of every generation is the only one who studies the ancient language and the real history. Technically, it should have only been me who knew the language, But only recently I started spreading our ancient language among the youth of the tribe and started teaching some of the senior leaders myself. They already know a few words, but their knowledge is still superficial and without actual training in it. They were afraid that they would speak to you in that language, afraid to say something they did not mean and earn your enmity with. So they waited until I rose from my coma and came to talk to you myself. Robin spoke while nodding with a furrowed brow as if asking for forgiveness for not being a good teacher. But when he finished speaking at that point and found Fugon giving a small nod to indicate that he understood, Robin's countenance changed and he gestured behind him. As for the handsome giant part, Jabba's eyes shivered when he saw Robin pointing toward him. He came to the planet Greenland with Robin as a kind of help for his master and to open his own horizons. But he already realized that he had become Robin's weakness in this campaign. How can they be lost relatives when there is a 3-meter-tall blue giant walking among them? Ever since Robin opened his mouth and started telling those lies, Jabba knew it would be his biggest obstacle. And not only him, there are thousands of dwarfs and starlings and a bunch of individuals from other species from planet Nahari working in the Rune Masters and the Divine Blacksmiths divisions. What would these local humans say when they see them on the steep hill? It's the whole circus out there. This man here is called Jabba. He is my personal disciple and the commander of the army in my absence, and he is undoubtedly one of the most capable sons of our tribe. Robin spoke with slightly furrowed brows and a firm tone. He's a very intelligent and strong man. I hope you don't treat him any differently just because he looks a little different. A little different. Elix muttered and looked at Jabba again. Even though she was standing behind her father and Jabba was sitting, he was still taller than her, not to mention his color. Little miss, we have been separated for hundreds of thousands of years. Please don't apply your personal experiences to us. The tree father in our area used various poisonous plants to attack us over the years. And unfortunately, generation after generation of inhaling those poisonous gases affected our offspring, so you may find tall people like Jabba, or shorter people working in the Divine Blacksmith, and people with different eyes and long limbs working in runes drawing. We even have people who are crimson in color and have horns. Robin shook his head until his eyes welled up with tears, then looked at Fugon's face with determination. Brother Fugon, we are a large, diverse tribe. If you are not ready to accept us as a family because of what that filthy tree father did to us, then there is nothing to talk about further. We will quietly leave and look for other relatives that are more open-minded. Calm down, Brother Robin. Who said anything about not accepting you? We were just wondering. For the first time since the council started. Fugon's tone changed, and he quickly gestured with both hands to Robin to calm down with an awkward smile. Brother Fugon, a few things are not to be taken lightly. Jabba is a good person and worked very hard to help the tribe to battle our way here and meet up with the rest of our kin. Do you know how hard it is? But you treat him like a monster. Do you think this is acceptable? How would you feel if you were in his shoes? Robin spoke with obvious annoyance. Oh, you are right about that. Fugon stopped waving and then gave Jabba a serious look. I apologize if I offended you, young man. I didn't know you were a victim of a tree father's dirty games. I owe you one. Jabba gave a small nod with a sad face to keep up. Fugon nodded, smiling at Jabba again, and then turned back to speak to Robin. Would you calm down now? It was an unintentional mistake. Robin gave a big, satisfied smile in response to Fugon. This time it wasn't feigned. What just happened meant that the chief of the local human tribe believed everything said so far. This pushed the conversation to a whole new scale. Then, after smiling, he sighed and said, Hell, life is hard, Brother Fugon. The tree fathers want to annihilate us completely. So we should unite and start counterattacking. Why should we just defend? Fugon nodded a few times throughout Robin's words, and then asked, You are right. What do you think we should do, Brother Robin? I dealt a heavy blow to the tree father in this region and destroyed a large part of its soul. So my suggestion is, Brother Fugon. The atmosphere got completely frozen inside the tent. The girl Ellis opened her eyes at the end of them. Even her father, who used to keep his eyes closed most of the time, opened them as if he saw the god of death approaching. Robin even started waving and making crackling sounds with both hands to make the two return to reality again, even though he was a little surprised at their reaction. He undoubtedly knows how strong the soul of that creature is, and he mentioned the subject now with the intention of astonishing this couple and forcing them to respect him. But this reaction, as for Jabba, Caesar, and Alexander, they had a completely different reaction. The three exchanged looks and smiles among themselves. The way that this Fugon treated them for the past 2 months was provocative enough, and he also treated coldly Robin by getting him all the way to his tent and not even meeting with him outside. Seeing him like that now is so heartwarming. You destroyed what? Fugon finally opened his mouth and muttered. Honestly, it was unintentional. He was the one who asked for it. There was a direct clash between my soul and the Tree Father who was in this area, and I destroyed a large part of his soul. It lost almost 90% of its full size. What is wrong with that? Robin raised his shoulders with a big smile. This is exactly what happened. While we were crossing this area, that Tree Father sent a huge number of his troops with empty eyes to attack us, but my Golden Army confronted them and killed millions of them. In a desperate attempt, he decided to attack my soul to eliminate the head of the army, but he didn't take into account that the leader of an army of such strength wouldn't be an easy target either. Ha ha ha. Excuse me if I don't fully believe it yet. Fugon spoke, his eyes still wide open but clearly trying to restrain himself. We of this generation have never seen the Tree Father with our own eyes and don't know how powerful it really is. But information of that creature's soul power we inherited it generation after generation and know exactly how powerful it can be, and even if we did not inherit the information about the power of his soul, the Tree Father Hoffenheim has been living for countless years, and it is obvious that he possesses the soul like no other, and you say that you destroyed his soul. Humph! How many? Of the blank-eyed. Have you seen in battle? Haven't you wondered about? Why? Jabba spoke in the language of the people of Greenland, with an accent that was not entirely clear, but he communicated what he wanted to communicate. Blank-eyed. Fugon furrowed his eyebrows slightly, and then turned back to look at Robin in shock. Wait, your destruction of the Tree Father's soul was the reason behind their strange behavior? The Tree Father was controlling the buds with his soul. This is new information even to me. No wonder they started acting like normal humans during the battle. No wonder. Robin smiled and nodded. It wasn't shocking that they didn't know about Father Tree controlling the buds. He controls them during wars from the day they were born, and so the local humans thought this was just their war behavior. Robin wanted to follow up with something else, but suddenly the smile left his face. Then he grabbed his head with both hands and yelled in pain. Master! Your Excellency! Father! The three sitting behind Robin almost got up to see what was happening to him and perhaps to secure him against a possible attack from the local humans, as this was the first time for the three of them to see him like this. Ha ha ha! But Robin moved one hand and gestured them to sit down again. You said just now that you were in a coma. As I remember, apparently destroying a Tree Father's soul wasn't without consequences. Fugon spoke while slowly shaking his head. Now the matter had made relatively more sense to him. Hee. Of course, it wasn't, that thing was quite stubborn. But I'm in a better situation than him. Robin spoke while rubbing his head with one hand. During the time he spent in the prison tent, he actually found a way to treat his soul faster, and it is now working at its full capacity. The constant headaches that prevented him from speaking properly no longer existed, but severe headaches would still hit him from time to time. Excuse me, Sir Robin, if I still find it hard to believe that you battled the Tree Father soul-wise and won. After all, Tree Father Hoffenheim has besieged our tribe for over 200,000 years and none of us could even locate him anymore, let alone get to close him or harm him. You just appeared out of nowhere and claim that you did what we couldn't do in all of our history. That is a bit too much, don't you think? The girl Ellis kept chattering at Robin's face for a few seconds before speaking. Although she spoke of his disbelief, her tone was much more respectful than before. Ellis, be polite to Brother Robin. The one who replied to her this time was none other than Fugon. Even if we don't believe our ears, we have eyes and brains. Why do you think the behavior of the buds changed in the war? And why haven't the wizards appeared yet, even though we took all those lands and started digging the trenches? Even if Brother Robin didn't really destroy the Tree Father's soul as he claimed, he and his men still did something. Ellis turned to look at the ground again. But her serious look and sweaty forehead said a lot about what she is going through now. 200,000 years? Either Robin or the three behind him were shocked by the number Ellis just said. The all-seeing God told Robin that the history of martial arts on this planet began nearly 200,000 years ago. Doesn't that mean the Tree Father has been alive since then? And the people here have been fighting since the day they started energy cultivating, or maybe even before that. As I told you, Brother Fugon, history, language, and other things were passed down orally among the chiefs of our tribe from generation to generation, and that is why a lot of important information has been lost to us. It can even be said that the origin of the World War and its early years have been completely lost to us. Can you tell us a few things? What is the origin of those trees, for example, and what is their purpose? Exactly how many are there and where are they located? What are their strengths and trump cards? What treasures or valuables do they have? What are those wizards you spoke of? I mean, things like that. The more information you give us, the better. And also, what do you know about a large-scale lightning attack? You have lost all ancient history. It is indeed not very practical to rely on one person to pass everything on to the next generation. Listen up then. Fugon nodded a few times and then looked seriously at Robin. We basically don't know the origin of life in this world. Our history books only span to around 500,000 years ago, but it's enough to give us everything we need about what's going on around us. So let me start without any further deletions. 500,000 years ago there was no energy cultivation yet. There were only several intelligent races that sometimes fought and sometimes cooperated like any in-race tribes, and there weren't any major issues. As for those races, most of them were branches of the Treyant species. They are plants that have mutated and gained intelligence. Hearing those words, Alexander and the rest's eyebrows sank. Even Robin himself furrowed his brows slightly. Intelligent plants? They have nothing of the description to this point other than the Tree Father himself, maybe. Did he mean the buds? Was his reading of the memories of the buds inaccurate, as they turned out to be a real independent race? Fugon noticed the change and smiled slightly. You all don't need to think too much. I know you didn't see any Treyant before. History says that Treyants are completely different from the buds we see every day. Treyants could be real trees that can move or flowers that jump and play with each other. They are real plants that have gained its consciousness from nature. At that time, it was not strange to find a few men fighting with a tree while it jumped and kicked them with one of its roots, or to find a guy picking a flower to smell its fragrance while it curses him. Those creatures were extremely widespread. At that time, if we humans trampled a field of corn, you might find half of it turned into Treyant creatures. This is because the laws of this world support plant life more than others. It can even be said that it was tailor-made for the Treyants. This troubled other creatures like us humans and made us somewhat powerless in front of them. But it didn't threaten our existence. The good thing is that the Treyants are lazy creatures who often like to just dig their roots to the ground and relax under the sun, and they do not tend to live in groups either. So there have been no major wars ranging between our races. But at the same time, we humans did not have any land of our own, nor a place to call it home. Then he continued, we didn't dare to live in the same spot as we might get annihilated in our sleep. So our ancestors were living in scattered small villages, and even though they weren't left alone, our ancestors would wake up to find their fields destroyed by a Treyant who wanted to save his unconscious relatives, for example, or perhaps a huge Treyant passing through the middle of a human village and simply destroying it under its roots, killing half of its citizens. Those creatures knew exactly how strong they are compared to us humans and acted accordingly, with no care whatsoever. There is such a thing? Robin furrowed his brows slightly. Whether the mortal human's memories or the bud's memories didn't contain such a distant history. Fogan nodded slowly and then continued. You may be wondering why you haven't seen a Treyant in your lifetime. Well, that is because they were all exterminated. Except for 7. 7? You mean? Fugon nodded again. Yeah, I mean the current 7 Tree Father. Wait. I don't understand anything here. The 7 Tree Fathers are the only remaining treats in the world. Robin waved his hand several times. Does that mean that in the World War the humans won, and they won so overwhelmingly that they almost annihilated all the Treyants? But how are the 7 Tree Fathers running the world now? Fugon shook his head slowly. Let me explain to you. About 220,000 years ago, one of our human ancestors invented a technique by which he could accumulate natural energy within his body to power himself. That ancestor spread the technique to the entire human race so that we could protect ourselves from the harassment of the Treant race and their illogical behavior, and this is what happened, and a little more if I may say. Then Fugon continued, the first 1,000 years after the invention of the inner energy gathering technique. We humans managed to gather ourselves together after we were scattered and found a piece of land to establish our own kingdom and erected walls around it and placed a heavy guard of cultivators. Even the new Treant creatures that were appearing within our walls, we would throw them out or subject them to our service. At last, and for the first time in this world history, we could live in a large community and in peace, away from the Trent's headaches, for a while at least. But it seems that the world had another opinion. After the first millennium, very powerful Trent creatures began to appear one after the other. It was clear that they also follow some kind of energy cultivation system, and the problem is that if both a Trent and a human were at the same energy level, the trend would be much stronger thanks to its already stronger body. That and their numbers were already many times ours and were constantly increasing to the point of threatening the survival of our small kingdom. The enormous amount of natural energy at that time pushed this process even faster. We have preserved our cultivation technique within our borders and are sure that no leaks have occurred. How did the Trent creatures manage to strengthen themselves to this degree and threatened our 1,000 years of accumulated progress? Our ancestors did not know at that time, and to this day we do not know what happened either. Fugon shook his head. But Robin raised his eyebrows a little. He had just remembered what the all-seeing God had said when they first met about the planet interfering and influencing newborns to grow up and invent techniques to harness natural energy. Perhaps there really was no leakage, perhaps the planet helped the Trents indirectly to restore the balance of power. Fugon said that the laws on the planet seemed to be tailor-made for the Treants. I would not be surprised if the planet wants them to dominate and have more power over the rest of the other insignificant races here like humans. Robin thought as he wiped on his chin. But suddenly he stopped and opened his eyes to the last of them and then asked, "Wait, you say the laws of the planet are tailor-made for the Treants? Why don't I feel this? The laws seem too normal here, except that the law of life is perhaps a little more apparent compared to the rest of the laws, and why haven't more Trent creatures been created from that day? You said they even grow in the cornfields, right? Also, what do you mean by massive natural energy? Natural energy is very scarce here. Are we talking about the same world?" After Robin's questions, Jabba and the rest's features changed as well. All of them raised an eyebrow or two in surprise. Listening to Robin now, indeed all his observations are accurate and they themselves thought about it earlier. Before they came to this planet, they were ready to face extreme weather conditions of battle natural disasters. This was one of the main benefits of the golden full-body armor around their body. Robin didn't want to repeat what happened to him when he first arrived in Nahari. So out of the 16 armor pieces with everyone, there are at least a third of them dedicated to protecting their user from sudden changes in the laws around him and providing air, gravity, heat, and other vital laws at levels equal to planet Jura. But since they arrived on the planet, those precautions were rendered useless. They have not felt any difference from when they were on planet Jura, the same air, the same water, and even the same percentage of laws. Only the life forces have felt a slight boost in their strength since they arrived on this planet. Other than that, everything is almost identical to the planet Jura. Even the amount of energy here is very close to that on planet Jura. Although most of the members of the Golden Battalion were a bit disappointed after they found out about the situation, feeling that they had discovered a new continent in planet Jura, not that they had gone to a new planet. But in the end, the purpose of coming to Greenland was not to obtain a larger amount of natural energy or to test new laws, and of course not for sightseeing. So they ignored the matter after their first disappointment. But now the chief of the local humans is talking about perfect laws for creatures called Treants, and about a huge amount of natural energy. Is he talking about the same world they see? Or maybe they didn't appreciate the planet Jura as much as it should be. Fugon chuckled helplessly and shook his head after hearing Robin's question. All of your questions make sense for someone who doesn't know his history, whether the current scarce energy, the changed state of the heavenly laws, or not seeing any more Treant creatures appearing naturally, but all those questions have one answer. The 7 Tree Fathers. They are the culprits behind all of this. What the? Robin slightly furrowed his eyebrows. At the very beginning, when the Treant creatures began to use energy cultivation like us, we were somewhat safe. As I said, these creatures are lazy and prefer to relax most of the time. Meeting one of those strong Treants and making trouble with him was not something that would happen every day. But after a few hundred years and after the appearance of a large number of energy-cultivating Treants, the matter wasn't as scarce anymore. It was normal to find a part of the wall of the kingdom broken every day, and the conflict increased over time until one day one of the stronger Treants got angry because he saw a human girl collecting peaches outside the kingdom wall from a young tree Treant. So he collected his friends and attacked the kingdom, destroying almost a third of it before falling. The human kingdom became unable to provide the protection it had promised to its residents. So after that incident, the humans dispersed into small tribes again. A third of their kingdom was destroyed while they were united, so they decided to disperse? What is this logic? Caesar spoke with a bit of anger. Wouldn't it have been better for them to raise their defenses and start a counterattack? Counterattack against whom? Before Fugon could reply, Robin shook his head and spoke. According to what we heard, the Treants were far more numerous than humans and far more powerful at that time. One creature gathered a few of his friends and destroyed a third of the kingdom of the human race. What would you have them in that case? Would they declare war on the entire Treant race? If those creatures were really lazy and do not like to take action frequently according to the description, then the best option is to reduce large gatherings as much as possible in order to bring contact with them to the minimum, and this must continue until the humans get stronger than them at the very least. I can't think of any other solution. Old Fugon nodded, satisfied with Robin's analysis, and then added, "This is what they were thinking at that time. We had put our heads down and lived in the wild without houses or large buildings in order to avoid trouble. This plan really succeeded during the second millennium after the discovery of energy-cultivating methods. We inhabited caves and relied on eating the meat of beasts only and wearing their fur. All the small tribes maintained communication with the rest, but it was a very weak type of communication as we only conveyed news of each other and discoveries of the energy cultivation research. But if one of the tribes had a feud with a Treant, we would leave them to their fate. Our goal as humans at that time was to survive, and this is what happened. Our numbers increased during that period, and the number of deaths due to the feuds with the Treants fell dramatically. The number of human tribes at that time reached more than 207 tribes spread around the world, and the human seniors at that time were achieving great progress and steadily stepping towards higher levels of energy cultivation. Everything was going perfectly. Until that day came. That day. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly and looked at Fugon with more focus. He knew the answer to his questions was about to appear. In the third millennium of the energy cultivation era, an ancient Trent called Hoffenheim claimed to have discovered the truth of the soul and commanded the rest of the Trents to obey him to take over the world. Of course, because they are solitary and lazy creatures, they did not listen to the calls of that ancient creature, but they did not know that there would be consequences. On that day, the first batch of buds appeared. Fugon spoke very seriously. The army of the buds wasn't that big at that time, but they were very strong and fearless. That creature quickly used its buds to take control of a large patch of land. Every creature in that piece of land was either fled or was killed. That's it, no third option. That land got empty very soon, whether it was the weaker races like us humans, or the stronger Treants themselves. No one could be seen in that piece of land at the end of the same day. Robin furrowed his brows slightly. Hoffenheim was the name of the tree father who destroyed a part of his soul. So that creature had lived since the beginning of the energy cultivation era? And it was considered an ancient creature at that time too? The human tribes that were located in the area, the ancient Trent Hoffenheim claimed, quickly retreated after receiving great damage. But they did not find a place to shelter them. As they communicated with the rest of the tribes, they found that there are a few other ancient Trent creatures who began to follow a similar approach. They were also killing and expelling all the creatures in a certain zone around them. Fugon shook his head as he spoke lamentably. Those other ancient Treant creatures didn't use the bud system as the tree father Hoffenheim did, but each of them had a weapon that couldn't be stopped. For example, one of them used plants that had not yet gained consciousness to amass an army, and one created for himself very long roots that he used to attack personally inside his wide zone. and another one used some kind of catalyst to incite wild beasts against every other living being. And now I heard from you that one of them uses poisons? This is new information for us, but it is not unlikely. Yeah, who can know everything? Haha. Robin laughed awkwardly and then gestured at Fugon. Please continue. What happened after the ancient Trents took over their own territories? True horror. This is what happened after the ancient Traians took over the lands around them. Fugon's pupils widened slightly as if he can see everything before him. Our world has never known this idea of borders. Anyone could go anywhere as long as they didn't provoke the powerful Traiant creatures in that area. Even when we humans tried to make a kingdom or a walled city, in a more precise sense, we were attacked in every way because the Traiants do not like the idea of privacy and borders. But that is exactly what the ancient Traiants did. Then he added, that period witnessed an incomprehensible race between those ancient Traiants over who controls the largest patch of land. After the world was completely open for everyone, it became scattered circles, and in the middle of each circle lies an ancient Trent creature trying in every way to kill all the creatures in that circle. We called them domination circles. In just a few years, the number of those domination circles reached more than 40, and every day the circles expanded to include more and more pieces of land. He paused for a second and then continued, can you imagine what this did to the rest of the world's creatures at that time? We, humans, have been weak and scattered because of the head-lowering policy, and the rest of the Traiants were in deep fear of their ancestors, plus they are not the type to coordinate and have major battles type of race. So with no escape and without anyone to stand up to the ancient Traiants, everyone started running in random directions non-stop, and this escape frenzy did not last for a day or two, but it became a normal daily activity for our ancestors. It was not strange to see a group of tens to thousands of people and Traiants moving together. The mass migration that did not stop for a single moment exhausted everyone to the core, and whoever stopped for a moment or entered another domination circle unintentionally, then they were among the doomed. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly after hearing this. For one of the ancient Traiants to gain extra strength after a period of closed cultivation is quite explainable, but 40 ancient Traiants started to show strength at the same time and took the initiative to try to take over territory at the same time as well. Maybe those ancient Traiants were cooperating with each other to eventually take over the whole world together? This is understandable. The world is huge and has a lot of creatures to kill, and this way they would finish their task much faster. This is the only logical answer anyway. Robin thought to himself, but Fugon's next words destroyed his belief. Only 100 years after the era of the domination circles began, the circles widened so terribly and so suffocatingly multiplied that we humans and the rest of the common Traiant creatures had nowhere else to go, with a domination circle front and back, right and left. It became so tight that the different domination circles began to touch, and everyone who stood between them was slaughtered. The blood at that period, whether green or red, flooded the world. At that moment, Fugon's tone changed to show a bit of pride. When all the creatures of the world at that time believed that death was inevitable, someone stepped forward. The human geniuses of the Night Eagles tribe have a technique that enables humans to cultivate the second stage of the Blue Flame Minor Law, and with the help of that technique, our species advanced to a completely different level of strength in a short time. Robin opened his mouth in a small curl in astonishment. According to the timeline that Fugon had drawn so far, hadn't it been 2,500 years since the history of energy cultivation began? But someone had invented a saint-level law technique already? This kind of speed is breathtaking. It is something he hasn't heard of in either Planet Nahari or Planet Jura. The Night Eagles tribe were able, thanks to their new strength, to establish their positions and stop the progress of the domination circles towards them, and they also sent messengers with the details of the new technique to all the human tribes whose locations were known. Then those tribes sent messengers to the tribes they knew, and so on. Within 1 year, the second stage technique of the minor heavenly law of blue flame spread in almost the entire world. We humans were able to fix our positions and make our own domination circles. Fugon spoke with apparent pride. The domination circles of us humans were the safe haven of all intelligent creatures. Even all the fleeing Traiants came to us seeking refuge and protection in return for serving as our servants. Even Alexander and Caesar raised their eyebrows slightly and felt some pride and excitement at Fugon's words. Even though they had nothing to do with this world in the first place, Then what? That didn't answer any of my questions yet. Robin shook his head slightly. If this is just the history of the planet, there are a lot of missing links. Calm down, who said I'm finished? But this is strange. I haven't reached the points you know yet. It seems to me that the history you received is too incomplete. Isn't it? Even if some of it were lost, you should still at least know something, right? Fugon raised his eyebrows slightly and asked doubtfully. Please continue. Robin didn't even try to come up with any excuses and spoke up. Sigh, all right then. The strongholds established by us humans were entirely based on defense because their strength was roughly equivalent to that of the ancient Treant creatures at the time. It was just about enough to stop the continuous advance of the domination circles while paying a huge bill for it, so the advance towards the human strongholds stopped for quite a few years, but it didn't stop the war in the world. When those ancient Trents found out that human strongholds became like a metal wall and it was no use advancing in these areas anymore, they started fighting each other and trying to seize parts of the domination circles from each other. During the third millennium of the beginning of the energy cultivation era, those ancient Trents destroyed each other until there was less than half of them left, but we did not benefit much from this as the surviving half of them took control of the lands of the losers. We, humans, were left out of that major war, but at least we survived it. Robin widened his eye. They just started killing each other? This denies that there was any cooperation between them. Rather, we can also explain the race to control more lands was to improve their conditions when that great war between each other begins later. But you said that the Treants just want to relax under the sun. Why do they need to control such large patches of land? If it was to create a good environment for their bloodline, for example, this may be understandable, but they killed everyone in their domination circles. First, they killed the young of their own kind, and then they killed each other. This is strange, very strange. Fugon nodded. This indeed was a mystery that preoccupied humans and the rest of the Treant races for a very long time. Being in a species massacre war and not even knowing why was quite a sad thing, until finally, parts of the answer began to appear and it shocked everyone alive to the core. One day in the third millennium there was a great battle between two ancient Trents and they seriously injured each other. So the human tribe winter snakes decided to attack the nearest domination circle and took some new territory for themselves. This was their first real counterattack in a very long time, the first time we humans took the initiative to enter deep into a domination circle. Then he looked deep into Robin's eyes and continued. But after they penetrated deep into that domination circle, they started to feel changes all around them. The natural energy was noticeably lighter there, and the heavenly laws were completely different. It seemed as if they had entered another world. The energy density and the percentage of the laws were different within the domination circle. Robin furrowed his eyebrows tightly. Regardless of the fact that it is illogical to differ in the density of energy in the atmosphere because even if something happens to disturb the energy balance, the lesser density area always draws energy from the higher density areas so that the balance is automatically restored. The more significant question is how can laws differ within the same planet? Fugon nodded. The Winter Snakes tribe were very shocked by what they found, but they were trained warriors in the end. They didn't let these bizarre phenomena stop them. They continued their mission and indeed managed to conquer a large piece of land from that ancient Trent's domination circle. But they were not spared after their victory as the ancient Treant creature was raining attacks on them daily and their numbers shrank rapidly. Their happiness with the short victory vanished until they almost fled back to where they came from, feeling that it was impossible to take a piece of land from a domination circle. Then he added, but gladly that didn't happen. In the last desperate attempt the chief of the Winter Snakes tribe ordered to dig trenches hundreds of meters deep and cut out all the roots of the ancient Trent creature from that area. Something strange happened. The energy intensity began to return to its former nature, and the attacks of the ancient Trent creature that were striking from all sides and sides stopped. The place finally regained its calm. The only sad thing is the percentage of the new heavenly laws in that region remained the same even after thousands of years had passed. Robin opened his eyes wide and started tapping his thigh with his index finger without saying anything. After the Winter Snakes tribe spread the news about what happened to the rest of the human tribes, we all began to anticipate the occurrence of a great battle between two ancient Trent creatures, and then raid the nearest piece of land and dig deep trenches in it. From here, the counterattack of humanity began. This process was repeated in the 4th and 5th millennia after the beginning of the energy cultivation era. In this way, we were able to regain control of a large part of the world, and the scattered tribes began to merge again when they accidentally met during the cleansing operations. Fugon was proud as he recounted this part. At the end of the 6th millennium of the energy cultivation era, we humans managed to reestablish control over nearly a third of our world, although there were still many scattered human tribes that could never meet due to the existence of the domination circle us and between them, but we were still communicating with each other in one way or another and coordinating with each other. And with this, we succeeded in killing several ancient Trent creatures until there were only 7 of them left. Only 7 ancient Treant creatures, and they ruled 2/3 of the planet at that time? Those must be. Robin stopped tapping his finger and asked, "Yeah, they are the Tree Fathers, you know." Fugon nodded several times. They themselves? You said a while ago that there were more than 40 domination circles. During the first 6,000 years, most of them died, whether from killing each other or being killed by humans. That is more than 33 ancient Treants killed in just 6,000 years. But those 7 are still alive today after around 200,000 years? Robin asked hurriedly. Yes, one of the reasons for that is because those were the strongest 7 among all the ancient Trent creatures. But the main reason was that they realized at that time that the increasing power of humans would affect even them. So they communicated among themselves and decided to stop fighting between each other until they completely annihilated all the humans, and they called themselves the Tree Fathers. They even shared their unique techniques among themselves. For example, Tree Father Hoffenheim is the creator of the buds, but the rest of the Tree's Father can now use it and produce buds as well. Of course not as powerful or as numerous as Tree Father Hoffenheim, but it is still an extra weapon in their hands. Fugon spoke with apparent desperation. They also support each other when one of them is about to die. In the 10th millennium of the energy cultivation era, several human tribes allied to attack one of the Tree Fathers and eliminate him to reduce the enemies to only 6. And indeed, they succeeded in eating up his domination circle until they approached the Tree Father's main body and were about to kill him. They were so close. Except that 2 Tree Fathers sent reinforcements at the last minute and killed the human warriors, then wiped out the remnants of their tribe and took their land. It must have been a big blow. Has the war stopped since then? Jabba asked with difficulty. Yes and no. Listen carefully, Brother Robin, because the following will answer one of your questions. That battle was a strong warning to both sides, so it stopped for a full 20,000 years. None of us harassed the other. We are not moving forward, and the Tree Fathers also stopped advancing. That was until Tree Father Donis attacked a human tribe and annihilated them. At that point, 10 human tribes combined to launch a deterrent attack against that Tree Father. Millions of our youth entered his domination circle of the Tree Father Dennis expecting a fierce war. But suddenly the air disappeared from the domination circle of the Tree Father Dennis for a full 5 minutes. The speed of Robin tapping his thigh increased much more. The air disappeared. The air itself, Alexander exclaimed in shock. He who practices the perfect major heavenly law cultivation technique of the wind can't think of any case where air disappeared. How is that even possible? It is one of the most fundamental laws for survival. Fugon nodded. The air itself has disappeared, or to be more precise, the ability to breathe no longer exists. Our young men fell from suffocation one by one. Some died where they stood and some fainted. Even those who remained awake were unable to move for the lack of air in their lungs. Then Father Tree Dennis sent his buds and his own branches to wipe out the human army. Not one person left alive that day. Since then, we have completely stopped attacking and focused on defense no matter what. Unfortunately, this did not prevent the Tree Fathers from continuing their attack. Since that day, several battles took place on the border between us and the 7 Tree Fathers. Whenever we entered the control circle of one of them in large numbers, even if for a short distance to push the Tree Fathers' army back, a strange natural phenomenon occurs and annihilate most or all of the army. Tree Father Kolse made the ground open and swallowed up most of our men, and Tree Father Hoffenheim sent lightning bolts to strike all flying creatures in the air. Things like that, so we completely stopped at our borders and contented ourselves with deterring attacks, not advancing a single step to the other side of the trenches, even after we were able to use some third-grade minor and major laws. And what happened after that? Does the human race still hold a third of the world's land? Robin asked. Fugon shook his head disappointedly. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I had previously said that the number of human tribes had exceeded 200 near the beginning of the energy cultivation era, after which the number dropped to about 60 after the discovery of the blue flame secondary law, due to our acquisition of more grounds and the merger between the tribes. But after the alliance of the 7 Tree Fathers, the number of human tribes that we know of is 15 tribes, and those tribes control 5% of the world's land mass. Fugon nodded several times in a bad mood. We 15 tribes have not seen each other for tens of thousands of years and maybe more. For example, we of the Northern Fury tribe can communicate with 2 other tribes using war bees, and they can communicate with us using a similar one, and those 2 tribes can communicate with a 4th tribe, and so on. This is how we know that we are currently 15 tribes. As for the 16th tribe, it was destroyed just a few years ago. 15 scattered tribes, and each one surrounded on all sides by the domination circles of the Tree Fathers. The fact that you guys still maintain 5% of the planet's surface is an achievement in itself. Robin tapped his thigh as he spoke slowly. Well, we are not 15 tribes anymore, we are back to 16 again. You are with us now. Ha ha ha, Fugon laughed out loud. Then he stopped and looked at Robin with a little wonder and asked, by the way, where exactly have you guys been all those years? Why haven't we heard about you? And what is the name of that Tree Father who used poison on you? We should know them all. Is it a new Tree Father, or is he one of the known 7 Tree Fathers and it discovered a new way of attacking? The Tree Fathers can change the laws in their domination circle. The energy level in that area is much lower than normal, and they have special abilities that are as powerful as nature's wrath itself. Why and how do they have such abilities? Why would they seek control in the first place? They don't have offspring or relatives to inherit that land. What is their last quest? Robin tapped his thigh and muttered in a low voice. He chose to ignore Fugon's questions. Then he quickly asked, what about the level of energy and structure of laws within the lands controlled by the human tribes now? Are they different from outside? Fugon nodded his eyebrows for a second, but he chose not to press Robin for it for now and answered, yes and no. In the days when the ancient Trents fought among themselves, there was still a huge gap in the laws between each domination circle, and the lands of the humans were still cohesive, retaining their natural energy and the normal percentage of the heavenly laws, so that there were many living Trents among us in our lands. Whether they were fleeing refugees or young Trey ants born within our lands, we had a lot of them. Fugon's countenance turned serious again. But after the 7 Tree Fathers allied themselves and took control of approximately 95% of the planet, the effect of what they were doing began to spread to our lands, and even our energy level decreased. It's still better than the atmosphere in an actual domination circle, but it is clear that the laws in our lands have changed to an extent that no new Trey ants are born in our borders as well, and those who lived with us previously died one after the other. The laws of the world simply no longer support their existence as before. That is reasonable. In the beginning, every ancient Trey ant creature was trying to change the laws from their point of view within their domination circle, and this led to clashes between all those domination circles. But after the alliance of the 7 Tree Fathers, they might have started to change certain laws systematically, and changing it in 95% of the world will definitely affect the rest. Changing the laws didn't hurt the local humans in any way, right? Robin waited a few seconds and then asked. Ellis shook her head and replied, no. Users of some laws felt a little weak, but users of other laws became stronger, so it can be said that nothing has changed overall. Then the only ones affected by the changed percentage of the laws are the Trey ants who went extinct. Why would they want to exterminate the rest of their own kind? Before the energy cultivation era, there was no obvious enmity between the Trey ants. Why would they suddenly want to exterminate each other? Robin murmured again in a low voice. You said that after the first ancient Trent appeared and began to expand, so many other ancient Trey ants began to do the same. It is impossible for them to tell each other whatever information they had as they were trying to kill each other. Perhaps that piece of information is something that comes easy to the race of Trents after they reach a certain level of strength. Is that why they want to eliminate the rest of their kind? So that the information remains exclusive to the least possible number among them? Whatever this information is, it is definitely related to a way to change the heavenly laws of the planet. Then, after a few taps on his thigh, he added, if this is the reason behind the changed percentage of the heavenly laws, then the reason why the energy level is lower is even easier. Changing the laws of a planet and maintaining them for hundreds of thousands of years is definitely not an easy thing. Expending a huge amount of energy for this is understandable, this regardless of the amount of energy that each tree father swallows in making his army. Like the tree father Hoffenheim who collects energy and pumps it into his army of buds. If we adopt these two interpretations, there is nothing left but to explain the source of those special abilities like thunderbolts that strike every flying thing or the lack of air for a few minutes. These are natural phenomena that a person even at the level of an emperor cannot implement. Does this have to do with changing the laws as well? What do these creatures want from changing the planet to such a degree? And most importantly, who taught them how to tamper with the laws of the world? Is this a Treyant thing? Or can we humans do it too if we know how? Fugon and Ellis looked at each other out of the corner of their eye without saying a word, but some drops of sweat started to seep from their heads visibly. Then they turned back to look at Robin with a look of shock, even some fear. The existential questions that have baffled all human tribes for hundreds of thousands of years were now being answered before their eyes. And who is answering them in someone whom they have never seen before, someone who didn't even know what a Trent is a few minutes ago? These are good questions. Fugon put on a fake smile and said, he really didn't know what else to say. Over the course of about 200,000 years, many wise men put forward multiple theories about what was going on. Some of them were somehow close to what Robin just said, but those wise men tested the strength and capabilities of the tree fathers themselves and read their long history in detail before arriving at their theories. But Robin was able to break down everything to such a degree and made his own theories after the few words he heard Fugon says. This is simply too much. Secondly, the terms Robin spoke, did that affect the local humans? Why does he speak as if he wasn't one of them? Or the laws of this planet, what planet? What does this word basically mean? And what is an emperor? Fugon glanced sideways again at Ellis out of curiosity to see how she would handle everything Robin had said, and found her still sweating profusely and her eyebrows knotted like a thread. Fugon knew at that moment that she is most likely thinking about the same things and also like him. She didn't come to any answers. A lot of strange things can be extracted from Robin's words, but they are also floating words that are not evidence of anything. Then he returned to look at Robin with a completely different look this time, trying to impose control by closing his eyes and speaking at a slow pace no longer had any effect. He couldn't even master the front anymore. Now, he has nothing but a serious look and anticipation for every word that would come out of the mouth of this stranger. As for Robin, he held his head with both hands for a few seconds, evidently in great pain, then lowered it and gently shook his head and spoke. You said you didn't come out from behind the trenches to attack the Tree Father's domination circles for a very long time. More than 100,000 years, maybe? And yet here we are, sitting and talking in Tree Father Hoffenheim's domination circle. Did you see the lightning attack and knew the Tree Father was in trouble and decided to fish in troubled waters? Your words have some truth. When the lightning attack is activated, it strikes down everything that flies in the air, even insects and birds. It is an attack so powerful that even the Tree Father himself cannot activate it just for the sake of fooling around. Although we don't know how many times he can activate it, he definitely cannot repeat it again in the short term. So when we saw it, we knew that Tree Father Hoffenheim was under attack, and we decided to intervene to see what was happening. Fugon nodded earnestly. We were sure that the rest of the tribes didn't send armies, or else they would tell us. So we were sure that there had been a quarrel between the Tree Fathers and that this was an internal war between them, but we didn't think for a while that we would meet you, our lost relatives. So you knew with certainty that your presence in the lands of Tree Father Hoffenheim was due to us, and it was also us who helped you crush his armies of buds and secure you a new piece of land, yet you decided to push my army back hundreds of kilometers? That is just fantastic. You have a unique way of showing your gratitude. Robin chuckled as he looked into Fugon's eyes. I hope you will excuse us for this, Brother Robin, because we wanted to make trenches and secure as much ground as possible quickly before Tree Father Hoffenheim sends more reinforcements or other Tree Fathers intervene. You must understand, right? Secondly, some of the blame falls on you as well. Without trying to communicate with us properly and prove that you are a lost human tribe, how do we know that you are not a new kind of bud that the Tree Father wants to fool us with? In fact, until now this possibility has not been completely ruled out. Oh, haha, I apologize for my bluntness, Brother Fugon, but you saw a hint of my Golden Battalion's power when you teamed up against the Bud armies. Do you honestly think that? Robin laughed out loud at first, but his gaze turned serious at this point. We need to get closer to you and fool you in this way? I think you underestimate us too much, Mr. Robin. Fugon furrowed his eyebrows and spoke. Oh, really? I am not the one who insulted your army and pushed it back in your absence, although my boys were clearly showing good intentions. This is the same army that marched and toured Treefather Hoffenheim's domination circle, the same domination circle that you and your ancestors were afraid to set foot in. Do you think we are afraid of you? What a fool. If my disciple Jabba acted as he should and repaid a portion of the aggression you showed him, you would all be dead by now. Robin raised his head and spoke from the top of his nose. The disdain was very clear in his words and eyes. Features of anger began to appear on Fugon's face clearly. He wanted to open his mouth several times to respond, but he couldn't find anything to say. The atmosphere inside the tent was frighteningly heavy. No one said a word after that. They just looked at each other and made their own calculations. Even Ellis, who was standing behind her father, tightened her hand on her weapon. Your Excellency, you can forget the past. Jabba intervened tactically. Humph, my army has been insulted in my absence. That means I have been insulted, my dear disciple. I created an army that could destroy this entire world with a wave of my finger. How could I allow my great army to be insulted? And at the hands of whom? These ungrateful things. Robin's words of power sent chills down Fugon's back. Destroy the world. FCK. Does that person even realize what he is saying? But before Fugon could say a word, Jabba spoke again. What if they apologize? Robin was silent for a few seconds and then gave a small nod. Tisk, we came to look for our kin anyway. It would be bad luck if we destroyed the first tribe we see. Well, an apology is fine, but it better be a damn good one. Crack. Who are you destroying? Come try. Do you think we are afraid of you? Ellis hit her spear on the ground and shouted. Do I think you are afraid of yourself, huh? Well, yeah, you should be afraid. Robin looked at her with the side of his eyes and spoke with apparent disdain. When Ellis heard that it was like a vine popped out her forehead, she was about to take a few steps forward and actually attack Robin, but Fugon's fist, which was about to shatter from the intensity of the pressure on it, prevented her from doing so, and he gestured at her to return to her place. However, his eyes did not leave Robin for a moment. With that confident little smile and that upside-down look and crossed hands, Robin seemed to have complete confidence in what he was saying. He really believed that he could wipe them out if he wanted. And most importantly, Fugon didn't sense any killing intent from him at the same time. His daughter might not see it, but he understood. What Robin is doing now is not out of his anger or his feeling of being insulted, as he claimed. This is nothing but a game of control. As he himself played it and pushed back the Golden Battalion repeatedly by intimidating them, and by forcing Robin to come to his tent and not meet him in the middle of the road, and the way he spoke and sat since he saw him, these all were just mind games to impose control. Fugon indirectly wanted to show the newcomers who were the boss here. But he never thought that Robin, someone who had neither land nor numbers advantage, would want to play the same game, and with such a blunt way at that. After about a full minute passed, Fugon loosened his fist slightly and spoke in a serious tone. I ordered what I saw fit. I saw an unfamiliar army and dealt with it as such, so excuse me. I see no reason to apologize to anyone. You may be right. Robin nodded his head a few times and then started to chuckle suddenly. But I still want a decent apology. Or what? Fugon furrowed his eyebrows tightly. Robin leaned his back forward slightly and winked his left eye at Fugon. Let's leave this as a surprise. Crush. Father, what are you doing? A while ago you were trying to convince them that we are family. What happened all of a sudden? Don't we need their help to take over the planet? Or did you just want information? Caesar ignored the bone-crunching sounds of Fugon's fist and quickly sent a message to Robin through his thoughts, conveying technique. Hehe. And do we need help? You said it yourself, the Golden Battalion alone can destroy this local human army, And I also saw the space gate before I came here. Work on it will be finished in 7 days at most. After the main body of the army arrives, we won't have to worry about anyone in this world. Also, I don't need their information. I could have just captured some of them and done a soul search on them. Robin replies with telepathy too. But this time he sent for Alexander and Jabba too because he knows he's troubled too. Can any of you guess what's going on right now? Do you want to tell them who the boss is, so they can follow you later without asking questions? This way we will have strong allies on this planet. Jabba replied in an unsure manner. No. Alice? Why would I need them to follow me this way? They would only hate me and wait for a chance to regain their proclaimed freedom even if they were living like shit before us. We simply do not need them, so why would I try to get close to them and strengthen them and consider them allies? I am tired of giving face to trash. I am tired of empowering and enriching people only to have them stab me in the back on the first chance. I've been foolish enough to elevate people and make them equal to me when they are actually worthless, but that is enough. Whoever wants to be my ally must be my equal first. Robin's message reached the minds of Jabba, Caesar, and Alexander at the same time. They began to look at each other with weird looks and sunken eyebrows. Robin's words were full of pride and power, and at the same time full of great sadness and pain. Ahem. How about you, Alexander? Do you have an explanation for my actions? Robin continued when he found that his small lecture had suddenly stopped. Alexander raised his eyebrows slightly upon hearing Robin's question specially addressed to him, then looked at Fugon and his daughter, who was still silent but clearly raging. Just a wrong word from Fugon now could cause a big fight to break out in an instant. His Excellency is taking advantage of such a time to teach us the arts of leadership. Alexander focused for a few seconds and then sent through the thoughts-conveying technique. You just want them to recognize us as a new human tribe. Haha, right. Your years ruling the Wind Empire were not wasted, Alexander. Robin's smile was clear as he said this. Alexander shook his head with a half-smile. To be praised in such a way by someone who was not even a quarter of his age gave off a very strange impression. But I don't understand. If you do not need their power or their information, what can their recognition benefit you with? Father, Caesar asked quickly. You'll know soon. Robin spoke confidently. Caesar or the rest didn't add another word. They just raised their eyes to watch Fugon's movements again, ready to move at any moment if he tried to attack. But this time their gazes turned from confusion to absolute confidence. Robin knew what he was doing, and that was enough for them. 3 full minutes later. What kind of apology do you mean? Fugon finally closed his eyes and asked in a low voice. Father! Ellis exclaimed in shock and took 2 steps forward. But she quickly gripped her spear firmly and returned to her place. It isn't like she doesn't understand her father. They have seen how strong the Golden Battalion really is with their own eyes, and their leader is now talking about destroying the Tree Father's soul, Hoffenheim himself. And that's just what they saw and heard. The strength of this new tribe is still unknown, and it's also clear that they don't care about kinship and these absurdities that their leader Robin said in the beginning. These guys weren't searching for their kin as Robin claimed. They found themselves strong enough to impose their rule wherever they were tough, and they started doing it. But even knowing this, how can one risk gaining a new powerful enemy when the Tree Father Hoffenheim himself is still on their borders, wanting to destroy their day and night? The best possible outcome that can be drawn from this conversation is that the demands of the leader of the new tribe are not too exaggerated, and that he leaves them be and submit them entirely to his rule. Until this morning they were pushing back the new tribe's army with great zeal and doing as they pleased. But now they are being threatened in their very own home. Ellis suddenly felt suffocated. Would this have happened if they had treated Robin's army well from the start and hadn't preferred taking more territory than being hostile to them? Or would this Robin going to try to subdue them anyway? This would never be known now. Good. It seems your isolation from the rest of the human tribes hasn't completely lost your common sense. Robin nodded with a smile. No need to worry. I am not asking for anything big. I just want a public apology from you in front of your tribe that you have wronged us and that we are an allied tribe that you have never heard of. And, give my soldiers a few gifts as compensation for the psychological damage you caused them. Maybe a few different weapons, gems, and herbs, or even rocks. Anything will do. It doesn't have to be all very precious. The only condition you need to mind in picking those items is that I don't want more than 10 copies of the same item. This means that I will be waiting for at least 4,000 different kinds of gifts. It's easy. What do you think? Deep inhale. All right, we can arrange that. Fugon spoke heavily, but something within him automatically relaxed. Good. Robin slapped his thigh. Now that we are done with this, I have a little request. What is it? Fugon asked in a heavy tone. No need to take it seriously, it's a simple thing and you probably already figured it out. Robin waved his right hand and then continued. It's just that you'll stop at this point. You can dig all the trenches you want here and swallow all those lands you already took due to my army's effort. But that's it for you. From this point on it will be the territory of my tribe. What? You want to swallow Tree Father Hoffenheim's domination circle all by yourself? Ellis shouted. Robin looked at Ellis and spoke with a smile, eyes wide open. And what's the problem with that, little miss? Are you delusional enough to think that helped us with anything in this conquest? It was we who ravaged Father Tree Hoffenheim domination circle, killed millions of his buds, endured the power of the lightning attack, and destroyed a large part of the Tree Father's soul itself. And on top of all this, we have built a headquarters for us near here. Even the battles you got your nose in, my army helped you win. All the land you captured is mine, but I will give it to you as a gift for a new neighbor, and I will take nothing from you for it. But be careful. Every new inch you take from my land will have a heavy price. Mr. Robin, we have already seen the strength of your army and realized that it is equivalent to our current forces. You deserve to talk to me as equals and partners, but that is all. Do not forget that our armies, with all the strength we have been hiding behind trenches for hundreds of thousands of years. Do you really think that these forces of yours will be enough to bring you victory against Tree Father Hoffenheim? Do you even realize how big his armies are? Rather, what will you do when the witches appear? You are delusional. You think the Golden Battalion is equivalent to your army? Never mind, let me share your delusion with you and say my Golden Battalion is equivalent to your army. Then the more important question comes, who told you that this is my entire army in the first place? Robin raised his eyebrows and laughed. You? Both Fugon and Ellis didn't know what to say after hearing Robin. They knew for sure that the Golden Army outside was stronger than their entire current army combined, but they still wouldn't fall easily in front of it. But it turns out that it's not all they have. But that makes sense. What army consists of only the users of the second and third grades of the heavenly laws? Those are only the elites, not the main body. Unconcerned by Fugon's reaction, Reuben then continued. As for the Tree Father Hoffenheim army, yeah, I have some ideas. I will assume that all the buds are semi-immortals and are all alive without any natural death. As far as I know, Tree Father Hoffenheim produces approximately 20 standard buds per day. One bud that can use the first stage of a law every month. One bud that can use the second stage of a law every year. And one bud that can use the third stage of a law every 3 years. Then he added, if we take this into account and then deduct the buds we've killed over the past few months, and the buds that have been killed over the course of the 200,000 years, then Hoffenheim still has around 500 million buds, most of whom can't use the heavenly laws, but his real army who can use first to third stages of any law will never exceed 2 million, especially those with second and third stage of the laws will never exceed 1,000,000. Where did you get the information on creating the buds from? Fugon furrowed his eyebrows and asked, although he was trying to maintain his composure. His shock at the numbers was still evident. Robin shook his head with a smile. It's true that we have a lack of information in history, but at present, I'm afraid our information far exceeds yours. Not only am I sure about the estimated numbers of buds, but I also know how to find their breeding grounds. You know where the buds' breeding grounds are? However, 500 million buds and 2 million law users, you say those numbers as if they were nothing. Our ancestors made an alliance between all the 15 tribes and cooperated for hundreds of thousands of years just to survive behind the trenches. You think you can handle Hoffenheim head-on? From where did you get your confidence? If you are seeking the domination circle of Hoffenheim, then you are seeking a war of annihilation against a tree tatter, and perhaps against a few tree fathers if reinforcement comes to his aid. Are you saying that you can win if a war of annihilation takes place between your tribe on one side and multiple tree fathers on the other? Fugon spoke very slowly. The sound of his heartbeat is heard from outside the tent. Yes. Robin shouted without a moment's hesitation. Before Fugon or his daughter could say anything, Robin stood up and Gaba, Caesar, and Alexander stood after him, and then he looked into Fugon's eyes and spoke. I think this meeting went well. I'll eagerly await the gifts of the soldiers. Oh right. I'll start invading Treefather Hoffenheim's domination circle exactly 1 week from today. Until the time comes I will leave you with only 2 options. 2 options, huh? What are they? The first option is to do as I said earlier, to stay at this border and consider all the lands you took as a neighbor's gift from me, start farming them or do whatever you have to do, and you can even start celebrating that your new neighbors will be humans like you and not that damn tree haha. That would be a good course for celebration if you asked me. Robin laughed out loud. And the second option? Fugon held back his anger and asked again. He began to wonder if having them as neighbors instead of Treefather Hoffenheim is a good thing. Robin stopped his laughter and spoke seriously. The second is that you fight alongside me and then I will give you more lands. But you must remember this carefully, we are not equal. We'll fight on my terms and under my command. The lands and treasures that you will take upon victory, it will be I who shall give them to you according to how helpful you were. To be blunt, you will be followers or mercenaries at best. If you choose this option, then come to the steep hill 75 kilometers from here 7 days from now with your whole army. Fugon's mind was about to collapse at this point and was about to curse at Robin angrily, but Robin waved his hand and quickly stopped him and spoke before him. A wise man once told me to choose my words carefully because a wrong word could be the difference between heaven and hell. I advise you should watch your mouth with me. I gave you 2 options and both are beneficial to you, whether you stay where you are and enjoy your new lands in peace, or you come with me as a vassal and take more lands, treasures, and glory, you will win either way, so why be angry? Then he added in a serious manner, you can take a third option, of course, for example, you can wait until we start the war and try to seize the opportunity again and steal new lands from me as you did before. But then I swear by everything under the sky that I will go back to annihilate your tribe first. Is that clear? I said what I need to say, you do as you see fit. Let's go. Robin opened the curtain of the tent and came out with a big smile on his face. Then Caesar, Jabba, and Alexander came out behind him as if nothing had happened. The strangest thing is that Fugon heard Robin laughing and greeting the soldiers outside, as if he had not threatened to destroy them a moment ago. Ellis wiped a wisp of blood from the side of her mouth as she looked at the door of the tent with extreme anger. That hateful bastard! As for Fugon, he was more composed. More than a minute after Robin walked out, he let out a long sigh and muttered, "So these are our new neighbors, huh? Sigh."